guys are stuck in this communist state. You know, you got to get out. They're all looking to get out. They're like, Mark, let's move to Vegas.
Nothing good happens in Vegas, right? Or is it all good?
Well, it could be all good if you're on the gun range.
Yeah.
You can shoot more stuff. You guys are like the last holdout, the Friends of Lincoln in here.
There's not any. There's no rules in Vegas, right?
Pretty much.
Don't you think Florida's worse though?
Well, Florida is the gunshine state, but I feel like Vegas, you have a lot of really cool ranges in
What
Vegas.
does gunshine state mean?
It's the gunshine state. It's the nickname for Florida.
Really?
Yeah.
They don't have any rules for anything. Like even the supplement. That's why all the supplement companies are there.
Yeah.
Because they ain't got no rules.
Yeah, the problem becomes the ranges, finding access to ranges and finding long ranges. Like in Vegas, you have more space.
Right. Where are you from?
Boston originally.
Boston. We got to deal with this fucking accent for the next 2 hours.
Yeah, deal with the accent.
Edit out the accent. See if
Oh,
you can
boy.
work on that.
I'll throw a filter on there.
Yeah.
It takes
something.
out every fucking.
Yeah, all the fucking this, fucking that. That's the like the crossover word. Like instead of and or when you're from Boston, it's fackin'. Fackin' this, fucking that. You make weapons? What the hell's going on with this?
So I work at Falcor Defense. Okay, I'm the CEO of Falcor Defense and Draco's Barrels. So what we do at Falcor is we design and develop particularly AR-15, AR-10 platform gas guns, all the way up to the 300 Win Mag, which is really a revolutionary firearm in the sense that not many companies have been able to harness the 300 Win Mag cartridge. It's really a long-range caliber. You can pretty much drop anything in North America with that.
So you guys aren't just making stuff that everybody else makes.
That's right.
You're being innovative.
Innovative.
What does it take to do some of that?
Well, to do it, you have to really be willing to take chances and potentially lose a lot of money because you're going to be doing something that hasn't been done. And anytime you're doing something that hasn't been done, you're going to run the risk of some of that R&D going out the window. So there's a lot of machining, a lot of stuff that goes into it, a lot of IP. The 300 Win Mag is really something that's changed the game. There's only one other company that did it successfully in a gas gun platform.
Has anybody gotten hurt making some of these things? I mean, I imagine like some R&D, like something's more powerful than you anticipated or something strange happens.
So it's funny. I'll tell you a funny story. We were starting to develop something new right now that we're working on that I really don't want to get too deep into, but it's a small caliber, and one of the guys in the snail trap taking shots, and he had one, it went full auto on him, and it, almost, you can run that risk of like, he got a little scare in him. Nothing really crazy happened, but yeah, there's always that risk, as you're testing, we get guys that dress up almost in like, the headgear and everything else. They get overly cautious, they got vests on, everything. But I think when you're developing something the first couple times you're testing it, you're always a little leery. I'm sure you were with the slingshot. Is this thing going to work? I got 900 pounds on it. What's going to happen? So
there's a lot of hurdles that happen when you start a business. And I can't even imagine the red tape that would be surrounded when you're starting a company that makes guns. What were some of the hurdles in the beginning?
So when you start a firearms company, you have to first get what's called an FFL, and then you have to get an SOT. So you have to have basically the state and the federal government authorize you to develop weapons on the premises. So there's a lot of red tape. There's a lot of basically paying fees.
Were you thinking about this for a long time, like since the time you were a kid, or you got into hunting or guns when you were young? And
so that's a great question. I started out, Mark, in finance, and I graduated college and knew what I was going to do. Came back like you, was coaching football. I was kind of like, where's life going to take me? And kind of like we were chatting a bit about it last night. I had this opportunity to go to the police academy. So I graduated the academy, kind of know what I wanted to do. A bunch of companies had approached me and said, hey, would you be interested in doing demos? So there was like Enforced Weapon Lights, Breakthrough Clean, all these different brands that kind of got me started. They said, we need someone to go over to departments, work with them, show them the stuff and get them to become customers like anything else, So I started doing all this stuff. I really didn't know where it was going to take me. I didn't know what was going on. And so, little by little, I started building all these clients, and I'm running around, and before long, companies started coming to me and saying, hey, would you come here and do this? Would you come here and do that? And I kind of held out a long time until, Falcor came along and offered me the CEO position. So, I didn't want to jump on the first thing in front of me.
Right. That's a pretty cool intro into all of it. I got to say, you look pretty jacked in that strong shirt too.
Yeah.
Is it just me looking at him and the lighting, or Smoke? What do you think? He looks pretty jacked.
Yeah, no, I've been training a long time, and powerlifting was my first, introduction. And I look at weightlifting as an extension of defensive tactics and training. And the theme of training comes up all the time. When you start out, you're kind of like, well, you go to the gym. It's the first
Yeah.
thing. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to get strong because if I'm strong, then I can do something with it. But then a lot of people don't know, like, what's the next step? How do I make it more functional? So I started out powerlifting, small local federations, just kind of competing, getting out there. I had a bad pec tear a few years into it.
Went out to eat last night with John and Matt. It just kind of was circumstances. I went to the hotel to grab a hold of Matt and to take him to dinner, and then there came John, and so we went to eat. And earlier in the day, Matt Brown was telling me, he's like, you know what I hate? He's like, I hate motherfuckers that talk a lot. Then we went to eat, and this guy can fucking talk. So he was talking a mile a minute, and it was amazing. It was amazing watching Matt like trying to like handle it. Like he just it's not his thing. Like it just.
I could see him, and then
Because Andy was talking so much too. My wife can talk her face off too. They're going back and forth a lot, and then he's like, hey man, if I run into some crazy bastard, he's like, somebody knows how to fight. He's like, someone like you. He's like, I'm just gonna fucking shoot him. He's like, I'm just taking their ass out. And you could see Matt just like thinking of all these different ways to chop up your body or something.
I think he killed me 10 times in his mind.
Oh my god, that guy's a real beast.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was fun. And you and Andy got into some political stuff. You guys were talking back and forth, and you actually. It seemed like you agreed on a lot of the situations. You've rubbed elbows with our current president.
Yes.
With Donald Trump. Tell us a little bit about that.
So
Is his hair real? Can we get into this? Can we talk about it?
That's the great.
That's the pressing question
question.
In America.
So I had this opportunity recently to meet the sitting president, Donald Trump, and I had been, friends with Donald Trump Jr. for a little bit, and we go back and forth and chat, and like I always say, you hear me say this a lot. He's a gun guy, so super supportive of the NRA, super supportive of everybody in the gun industry. So he says to me one time, "Hey, you wanna meet my dad?" So I'm like, "You mean like?" Leader of the free world, your dad, so I'm like, yeah, sure. So we get to NRA, and I'm kind of like, we walk around a little bit, we chat, and then he's like, meet back here. So we go into this room, and I'll tell the whole story because it's kind of funny. So we get into this room, and then we get into another room, and you get into this green room finally, and there's Secret Service everywhere. It's like a whole thing. So I have Branch with me, Branch Warren, and Max Michel, who shoots for 6 hours, one of the best shooters in the world, probably the best shooter in the world, and then a couple other guys. So I'm kind of like, wow, I'm like looking around, I'm like, I've never met a sitting president. I don't know what to expect. The only thing I have going on in my head now is like the Forrest Gump. I had me about 14 Dr. Peppers kind of thing, And I look, and there's Dr. Pepper and soda all over the table. So I'm like, what do I'm starving now. I got to eat because it takes like, you're waiting on him,
Right.
So I said, Max, go over there, get a drink, because if you get a drink, it'll be cool. Then I can get a drink, no one will question you. So Max goes over, he's like, I don't want a drink, man. I'm cool. I'm like, nah, go get a drink, dude. Branch is like, go get a drink. So finally, he moseys over, he gets something to drink.
You don't want the two big bodybuilder guys in the room eating up all the food.
The first
and shit.
two mooks getting something to eat. So then there's this huge spread, and there's this table, and there's like a carving station and all this stuff. And I'm like, Max, go over there, get something to eat, because if you get something to eat, then it'll be cool. So like he goes, nah, man, I don't want to eat. He's all cool. He's from New Orleans. Nah, I'm good. But I'm like, go get something to eat. So he goes get something to eat, and then we mosey over, we get something to eat. And we sit down, and Don Jr. sat with us for a little bit. He ate with myself, Branch, and Max, and it was really cool just sitting there kind of rapping with those guys a little bit, and some of the Secret Service guys. And then they take you in, and it's really a surreal moment. They have the whole setup and the whole bit, and super charismatic dude. It was an honor to meet him, and like I said last night, one of the coolest things about meeting the president is, one, that it was a sitting president, but two, I really enjoyed that Donald Trump Jr. took the time to introduce you, because you may meet someone and they don't know who you are. It's like, hey, how you doing, buddy? Moving on to the next one. But Don was like, here's John Bartolo, CEO of Falcor. Here's Branch Warren, professional bodybuilder.
Oh, that's cool.
It's really cool.
Yeah, and it's hard to you don't want to toot your own horn to the.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be where you're taking up his time, and yeah, it is cool to get an intro like that.
Definitely a cool moment.
So you get a couple minutes to chat with him?
We had a few minutes kind of shaking his hand and chatting a little bit there. It was probably the most personal time. And I kind of lost my train of thought, because he looks at Branch, and then he looks at me. And, of course, we're next to each other in the offering line. And when he says bodybuilder, Don Sr. looks at me and he goes, can you beat him? And I'm like, Of course I can. What do you mean? So I'm like, kind of had a little back and forth there. But I did want to ask him if the hair was real, but I thought that was maybe not a good opportunity.
Fuck, man, we could have really got somewhere with that
Could have got to
question.
the bottom
We
of
could have
that.
got the hot information. So
What's it like owning a company like this in these times when there's these school shootings and these random acts of violence going on?
Well, I think it goes without saying that we all, in the firearms business don't condone any of these acts of violence. I think it goes without saying they are totally done by people that are soulless people, really, that are fanatical and that are radical, and no firearms company is going to condone that. But I think, it's really difficult to legislate morality. If somebody isn't of sane mind, of sound mind, you're not going to be able to legislate that. So nothing you're going to do politically to change a law or to change something on the gun is going to stop a
I
fanatic.
think you said law with an R somehow thrown in at the end.
So you're not
That's
going to
pretty good.
You're not going to stop. You're not going to stop these fanatics from doing what they want to do. So owning a company or trying to run a company in these times makes it very difficult, as the government literally every week or every month is changing laws right in front of you. As in California, you guys know, one day it's the grip, the next day it's the trigger, the next day they want to put a bullet button on your gun. And, it makes it incredibly difficult to service our customers and to service the folks that we feel have a right to own those firearms, that have obeyed every law, have done everything right, and there's no reason for their rights to be infringed. And I think it's really sad what the government's doing, because I think that they're ignoring the real problem. And by the government, I mean the Senate, the House of Representatives. I think what they need to focus on is figuring out what makes these people tick and what makes them do the things that they're doing, because a criminal is going to perform a criminal act if they want to, period. And you're not going to legislate morality.
Yeah, and it's probably comes down in at least a lot of these cases. It seems like it comes down to maybe a mental health
Of
issue,
course.
and not necessarily a gun regulation issue.
Yeah, I mean, to say I'm going to put a bullet button or I'm going to change a stock or change a grip on a firearm, and that's going to stop somebody from walking into a school and shooting the school up. The only thing that stops a violent act of somebody who's fanatical is another violent act. Period.
Right.
Period. So you see these great
So
stories.
even if you took away a gun, they might make a bomb
Oh, sure.
or run people
Absolutely.
over, like you're seeing sometimes.
Absolutely, and you see these folks come out there and you stand on a pulpit. They get their 15 minutes of fame, and they start to rant and rave about, we need to regulate this and we need to stop that. If somebody wants to get a knife out of the kitchen and stab somebody, they're going to get a knife out of the kitchen. It starts an escalation of cutting into all those rights, and that's where you're going to lose anybody.
What do you think that some of the solutions to this? There probably has to be some regulation of some sort, right?
Absolutely. I think that in the process, I think one of the things they should examine is definitely the mental health crisis in the United States. I think we can all attest that it's been tremendously neglected. I think what
Hey
they
now.
have to focus on,
Spillage.
a little spillage.
Aisle 9.
I think we have to focus on the mental health
Got me all
problem
excited.
in the United States and really start to regulate that process and how we evaluate people and evaluate their mental health. I don't think that I don't think for anyone in the United States that goes to buy a firearm does so with the intent of harming somebody unless they have that type of problem. And I think that there has to be a measure put in place to manage that.
We got to wipe up a little bit over here.
Yeah, a little spillage.
Thanks. Thanks, Smokey. Johnny on the spot here.
Yeah. There you go.
How long you been training for, and how did that all start?
So training, is something that's very near and dear to me. Since lifting weights, starting out about 14, 15, probably like everybody else in this room, finding a gym, starting to lift some weights. It's been super important to me to make sure I was always trained or training.
Right.
And then once I kind of outgrew the weight thing, I was like, okay, I'm lifting weights. It's really cool, but I want to do something else. So, that's when I discovered firearms. So I'm living in Boston, grew up in East Boston, and I'm like, where do I go from here? And I start shooting some guns and I start messing around with that. I get into knives, get into all that stuff, kids love. Go to college, play sports. After, I'm like, geez, I don't know, I need something more. So as I was mentioning to you last night, I started doing all this shooting training and everything else and the tactical training, I got out of the police academy and they said, hey, why don't you go down to Miami and see this guy? You know, it might be really cool. You know, see what he's all about. And I go down and I train, and it's Tony, and it's Real World Tactical. And
Oh my
he wasn't,
God.
yeah, he wasn't Real World
Our boy
Tactical
Tony.
yet, but he was getting there. So, you know, I had a good opportunity. Went down, trained with him a bunch of times. After that, we became very close, almost like brothers. And I had a great time training with him. I trained with some other notable trainers in the firearms business, all across the country. Trained with former SEALs, former Special Operations guys, and just through my job, got the opportunity to be on the range and be around guys that similar to you that had never had that normal people wouldn't have that opportunity to train with. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's really cool. And you hang out with Branch Warren quite a
Yes.
bit. And he's kind of a crazy bastard, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe not even kind of. He's just a crazy bastard, period.
I think Branch is one of the most intense individuals you will ever come across. I think when you have him on this podcast, the answers will be a lot quicker. You'll probably get a little less talking,
Yeah.
Mark. You'll be like, when he says, "Do you like training?" He's just going to give you like a "yes, motherfucker."
Yeah, and that's how
So, Branch is a solid dude, one of the best guys. If he tells you that's how it is, then that's how it is, and he's very honest, very forthright.
What's it like training with that guy? He seems like he goes all out.
Yeah, so the Branch story, after Tony and I had been training together a little while, I said to Tony, I said, hey, we'll go train with Branch Warren. And Tony goes, what? Like, we're going to train with Branch. We're going to go down to Metroflex. And he was like, and we get to talking, and he's like, of course, how do you know him? Comes up, like, I'm like, he's a gun guy, like he's into guns. So we were going back and forth. So we get on this plane, we go down there, and Branch's one caveat was, you train with me in the gym, but we're going to train on the range together too. I'm like, all right, bring it, So we get down there for 4 days. We do 4 days of training, 4 days of shooting, everything. And we were exhausted. We were wiped. We threw the kitchen sink at each other. So it's super intense. If you ever get the opportunity, and I know he's semi-retired now, he likes to say, to get in the gym with him, it is an intense experience. I mean, he doesn't waste a rep, waste a set. There's no walking away. There's no quit. And just when you think you're done, it's 5 more reps. And when you think it's over, it's 5 more reps. And you will leave sweaty, you will leave tired, you will wring your shirt out. You will earn that post-workout meal for sure.
That Metroflex gym seems kind of gross. It gets so fucking hot out there in Texas, right?
Yeah, he sent me
got like the one fan blowing, and it just seems like it's making it hotter in there. And
the one
stinkier.
box fan from 1985 that was in every one of Brian's videos with Ronnie, So, it gets really hot there. It's really some of the most extreme conditions. I was used to it a little bit down training in Miami and in Florida a lot. But I'm a cold weather guy. I like the cold. But, Branch and I became very, very close. When I go down there, I stay at his house. I stay with him, stay with Trish. And he's really been a really good mentor to me in the fitness industry and shown me kind of the right way to handle things, the right way to do things, to work with companies. Even, when I had the opportunity to work with Blackstone and Gasp, it was like bringing the band together, myself, Tony, Guy Sistorino, Branch, we all got to train together and work together. It was a lot of fun.
How's that intensity in the gym? How is that transferred over into other aspects of your life?
So, we all of us, in any leadership position or anything in companies, we get accused of being alpha or being intense, anytime we're around people.
Bunch of assholes.
I didn't want to say it, but, I think when you go in the gym and you blow some steam off and you get that energy out, I think what you try to take from the gym is that you're not done till the job is done, till the rep is done, till the set is done. So you take that, and you hear a similar mindset from guys like Dom Rosso at Dynamis. You hear similar mindsets from those people. Get a good rep. And they're not just talking about the gym. And I say that to my folks when I'm in the shop or in Falcor. I'm like, if you're going to do your job, get a good rep, get it done. If I give you a task, see it to the end. I can't go in a gym with you or Branch or anybody and do, a half-ass rep. You're going to be like, no, give me the full rep all the way down, all the way up. So one of the things you learn just in that gym culture is to see it all the way to the end, see it to the finish.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And I think that people sometimes lose track of the fact that you can train your mind, for other things. And when you're doing these workouts that we're showing some video of here, you're pushing yourself to a limit, and then you're going beyond that. Like it's where you thought you could go, and then you guys are yelling at each other, encouraging each other to take it that much further.
That's actually Clint Hansen in that video there. He's talking about the cross section between firearms and fitness. He's one of the head guys at Ballistic Advantage and Aero Precision. So Clint came out and he wanted to train with Branch. So yeah, I mean, you see the intensity, you see what the gym can bring to the table in the business life and in corporate life and everything in between. I don't think you want to leave any rep behind. You know,
Right.
just like in business, you want to hope to not leave any dollar behind, right? You want to do your job. And being from New England, that's something that's just burned into my blood. You know, I just kind of have that do your job mentality. See it to the end.
Goddamn New England Patriots.
Yeah, I know.
Fuck.
Love to hate us. Love to hate us.
No, I just hate them.
You know, just
I'm
win.
unfortunately a Jets fan.
Oh.
I've been stuck with it since the time I was a kid, and it hasn't been easy.
I feel bad for Jets fans.
You
I
should feel really
I guess
bad.
I know like the reverse of
We need a lot of help.
I know the reverse of the Yankees-Red Sox rivalry because like
Yeah.
you're our Red Sox, you know. It's kind of like
Right.
who are they? Like they're over there somewhere.
That's right.
You know? But yeah, I mean, that's definitely something that does kind of burn into your blood a little bit. You know, I said to on one other podcast I was on, they say, you know, what's your motto? They always ask, and I just say I expect nothing, I blame no one, and I do my job. And it's a combination of some of the things that other SMEs have said to me and I've heard through the years. And I kind of feel if you can control two things in life, what time you get out of bed and how loyal you are. Everything else is arbitrary and will change. It will change. You know what I mean? You may move, you may do this, you may do that in life. You may have no money, you may have tons of
Yeah,
money.
you can't always choose when you have to take a shit.
Yeah, but you can
Sometimes things are going to be inconvenient.
but you can control how loyal you are, and you can control what time you get out of bed. And if you put in a full day, I can work with a guy who's willing to do that,
Right.
or a gal.
You're a huge Patriots fan,
Huge.
Bill Belichick fan. Have you gone to some games and
Yes.
stuff like that?
Mhm.
What about your family, like your parents and your brother? You have brothers, sisters,
Two
stuff like that?
sisters. Yep.
Yeah.
Two sisters. So
Everybody's still on the East Coast.
still on the East Coast.
It's hard
so-
to get out of that.
Yeah.
It's hard to get away. It's hard to get away.
It's very hard. So when the gun laws got crazy in Massachusetts, and I moved to New Hampshire to live free or die state of New Hampshire, which is a great state to live in. I loved it out there. I miss New Hampshire like crazy. Everybody in Kalispell, Montana knows that. But I had the opportunity to go to Montana when I took the CEO gig out in Kalispell. So, I kind of was like, I don't know, you went through this. I mean, you kind of like the East Coast is burned into you, and you're like, I gotta get back. I gotta get back. Like you feel tethered, I gotta make a run for it. But I've been enjoying my time in Montana. I really have loved it. But yeah, I mean, there's just those old habits, those East Coast habits die hard. You just want to keep them.
It's hard to make progress unless you're willing to put yourself out on a limb, unless you're willing to try stuff. And I just saw I'm from Poughkeepsie, New York, and I just saw people just doing the same old shit.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of over and over again. Not there's anything wrong with that. I mean, people, they love their family, like to stick around their family, and I have a big family, and so people just they never get out of that element. But for me, I wanted something different, and I knew that I'd have to have many changes, even more so than just the scenery.
I think the most overused term in motivational speakers and any motivation is you have to take chances,
Right.
But I think you have to calculate those chances, and I think in life you have to know where you fit and where you don't fit, what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. And I process a lot of folks, stories that they've given me through the years, and I'm a huge people watcher, and I like to talk because I like to engage in people, and I like them to give me so much feedback so I can learn from them as fast as possible. But I listen to stories Branch would tell me. I listen to stories other successful folks that I look up to would tell me, and I calculate my chances based on things they've done in life and what
Right.
they've shown me they've done. And you have to not be afraid to sometimes get in the car and just go.
Right.
And sometimes that's going to be the scariest thing. But when opportunity's staring at you, you want to make it, that too good to fail or
Yeah.
that, but they're not all going to be.
Right.
So
So what you're saying is like it's not you are still taking a chance, still taking a risk, but it's a calculated one that you've seen repeated before. You've seen someone else do something similar.
I'm not looking for any opportunity. I'm looking for the right one.
Right.
And that's kind of the thing I always kind of stress on. And if you're good to people, as good as you are to folks, you could get one of your guys could get a phone call tomorrow and they get an opportunity to go be the CEO of another
These guys
company.
are not leaving.
They're never leaving. And there's always a number that keeps people, right? So, and it's not necessarily a phone number, but it could look like one. So, it just definitely depends on the mindset of the person and what they're willing to do. And then some people are happy understanding their limitations, and that's fine too. I think for any successful person or anybody trying to achieve a certain level of success, whether it's lifting weights, whether it's training, whether it's doing any of those things, it all comes down to mindset.
you keep mentioning a gun guy, so it's probably, you know, it's probably you're probably fortunate in the sense that the company that you're the CEO of, when you run into people that are fanatical about guns, because people are fucking crazy about
Crazy.
guns,
Mhm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when you run into some of these people, it's easy to make connections with people from all walks of life.
Oh, of course.
You got people in Hollywood, you got people in politics, you got people all over the place.
It's really funny you bring that up because I don't want to say who, but let's just say I was involved in an interview, and when they walked out, I said, "Well, I really hope he's not, a gun nut." You know what I mean? And there's levels of nut, just like there's levels of gym nuts. Like like you might have
Yeah.
somebody in here and you're like, he's a real gym nut, But yeah, you meet all kinds of folks, and the term gun guy is something I stole from Taron Butler, who trained Keanu for the John Wick movies, and he's in upstate California, he's in Simi Valley, really good dude. He got his big break by being friends with the stunt coordinator for one of the Rambo movies. So I was like, how did you get to know this guy? He's a gun guy, you know what I mean? So, the term gun guy is one of endearment. It's like when you say to folks, he's a gun guy, he's a friend of ours. He's okay. Like, it's like a Goodfellas term, he's
Right,
all right, and you do meet all kinds. There are some that are collectors. There are some that are trainers. There are some that, like Tony. Tony doesn't have a ton of guns. He's not a huge gun nut, but he trains and instructs with firearms. They're a tool to him.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit of both. I'm a student of history, so I do have a small collection, but I also use every single one of my firearms. But I try to explain to folks, enjoy them, use them, don't become too fanatical about it. But there are folks that it's like, they have like this romanticism with firearms where they have bunkers and they have this and they have that and they're preppers and they're closet preppers. So you come across all kinds. When you go to a show called...
You've seen some of that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Bunkers and different things?
Oh, yeah. So you come across a lot of that type of stuff.
I think Marcus probably has a bunker.
He could be. He strikes me as that kind of guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you come across all kinds of that stuff, and I think that it's really cool in a sense to see different folks' mindsets. And you hear about these actors and movie stars and folks that have like these bunkers and these huge weapons caches as if they're preparing for Armageddon. So I find that a little funny. But there are a lot of them.
I watch Walking Dead. I mean, I don't know.
It could happen.
It could be a zombie apocalypse any moment now.
I don't believe in the zombie apocalypse theory, but it could. I don't say never. I never say never. So I think it's a really cool subculture, and I think you can tell the area of the country by the show you go to. So there's a lot of different gun shows, just like there's a lot of different fitness shows. So you may go to one in like Pennsylvania where you get that Walking Dead fanatical crowd, or you get those really deep, those hunters, or you go to some of these shows in California, they're a lot more subdued or laid back if you can find one. Some of the ones in the Northwest Corridor, you get some laid back folks. But, you can pretty much tell the climate by the show, similar to fitness, the culture you're dealing with. But I think you find fanatics in anything.
How'd you find out about us? How'd you find out about like super training and me and shit like that?
So, obviously Tony had been on. So disclaimer, Tony had told me about, how well it went when he had, you guys had him out here, and he was like, it was a lot of fun, and Mark's awesome. And obviously I had followed your brother's journey through the videos and everything else, and I had watched that. And I kind of, I guess years ago when I had watched the videos and stuff like that, fell in love with like your family and how they carried themselves and how you guys were willing to put yourself out there. You were almost like a reality TV show before there was reality TV shows, because you put yourself out there through the documentary. And I was like, this is really cool. And then, of course it died down for a little bit, and you were doing your powerlifting thing through the years. And you always follow people, but don't follow them.
Yeah.
And you pay attention. And then when Instagram came about and social media started hitting them, you're kind of like, oh, what's this all about? Oh, Mark's got a company, And then I met Smokey a little ways back, and I realized he's a gun guy. Yep. You know what I mean? So I was kind of like, hey,
he's sniffing around for free guns.
Yeah,
I think is what's going on.
Here's a brother in arms, But it's really cool because it gives you some insight into, we need to come out of the shadows a little bit. Some of us that are proud of our rights and proud of the things that we stand for. And I know that Andy is, because she was so passionate last night talking about a whole bunch of topics last night with us. And I think it's really important to get the story out there and not be afraid to hide in the closet, so to speak, anymore.
Yeah, and especially like here in California, and then yesterday when we were having dinner, we're in Davis. Not everybody's probably going to agree with some of the things that were,
of course,
shared at that table. Do you run into some people that are that are very pissed off.
Oh,
That you're
every day.
doing what you're doing.
Every day, yeah. That's one of the struggles. I think when I started on social media and everything else, I kind of achieved a certain level of social media fame because I was one of the first people that was doing ads and I was pointing guns at people and I was doing everything that shouldn't be done. I was breaking all the rules, you know what I mean? But they were ads. So when you do ads, there's some stuff that kind of suspends disbelief and at first people are like, oh my God, this is crazy. But you run into people that they leave the comments, and the term we use is haters. They hate that you're brandishing a firearm or you have a firearm out or you're doing this. But then that became the accepted medium for the firearms companies because we don't have commercials, we don't have mainstream media. But then you do come across people at shows and everything else that want to protest or want to talk bad or kind of put the blame somewhere, and a lot of that stems from either they were affected by a crisis or affected by an issue or something that had come up, and you just do your best to just hold your head high and keep moving.
You ever get an opportunity to like actually explain something to somebody where you maybe open their eyes up a little bit, or has it been like they're just pissed off and they don't hear anything that you're saying?
Sure. No, I had an interesting conversation with someone at a dinner table because a lot of times this stuff will happen at the dinner tables now. You'll be with somebody or somebody's girlfriend or something, and they'll say, well,
Dude, why are you with other people's girlfriends?
Yeah. You'll be with another couple or something else, and they'll say, yes, they'll say, well, gun, they kind of have that guns are evil thing. It's just, never starts out with a direct slur. It's just like, it's kind of like they look at you and they're like, you must be stupid because you're big, so they kind of look at you with that kind of underhanded look. So, and you kind of just want to be like, fuck you. But no, you have to have an educated conversation. You say, well, look, it's a tool like anything else. It's a tool like a barbell, like what makes a firearm different? Because a projectile comes out of it. Is that what makes it different than a knife? Is that what makes it different than a barbell? Is that what makes it different than this coffee cup if I throw it off someone's head? Is it because a projectile comes out of it that when I pull the trigger, that's what makes it evil?
Right.
So you kind of have to get into that, like, let's go here first with your mind. Well, anybody can get them. Well, anybody can get a knife. In many ways, I look at a gun sometimes as a lazy man solution. If you want to do it right, go take a blade course or something,
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's a lot of conversation, a lot of education, and just kind of explaining to folks that this is our Second Amendment right. And we take our rights seriously, just like we do free speech. That's why we're here. We're here exercising free speech, talking about any topic we'd like to talk about.
You feel that the country was kind of built on some of this, right? I mean,
of course.
We wouldn't be here today having the type of freedom that we have. Like I don't really get too much into politics because I don't even read into it that much. But I mean, I'm thankful that I get to just like play every day. Like I literally just, it doesn't feel like I have to really work. I'm not struggling for food. I'm not struggling for anything. We live in a pretty awesome, a pretty awesome world,
I say it all the time. I'm not a Republican or a Democrat. I vote every election independently. I did vote for Trump this time around, just because I liked that he was not a politician.
Yeah.
And what I explain to folks is when I'm voting for someone or why I chose to vote for him, because that's where it always goes. It ends up going like, oh, you're a Trump guy, you know what I mean? Because you like guns, so it stems into that. And I say, well, look, guys, he's not perfect. He's not going to be perfect. Similar to what we discussed a little bit before, he's a businessman. And anytime you come from a business background, you're going to make decisions. He's a decision maker. Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, all the way down the chain, a lot of those previous presidents, they were career politicians. So they wanted to make everybody happy just a little bit. And when you try to go that route and make everybody in the room happy, you're not making a decision.
Right.
You're not making a decisive decision.
You're 100% right, because everyone is so opinionated about Donald Trump. What was their opinion of, like, Obama? Like, they didn't really have one. They're like,
no, it's lukewarm at best.
Yeah, like, he's just okay. I don't know.
It's lukewarm at best, he's like cold French fries. It's like, okay, they're there. I might eat them, but I could send them back. But
French fries.
Yeah,
it always comes back to French fries.
Yeah,
exactly. You got to bring the food.
Or skinning a cat. We've skinned a lot of cats on this show, like recently. I don't know why that's a thing, but
I think the last 2 episodes, someone said skin
I think
the cat.
3. I think it's
Really?
3 in a row. Yeah,
we're gonna skin the cat.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, maybe he's
nobody likes cats.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Maybe skin a wild boar.
Yeah, I've done that. But
have you went on a wild boar hunt?
So I went on a boar hunt with Branch. We went on a hog hunt a couple of times actually, and it's
a hog hunt. Some people do that at bars.
There's a weight limit on the hogs
Yeah.
I catch, so
Oh, okay.
put it that way. But no, yeah, Branch, I've been on a few hog hunts. If you ever get the chance and you ever trade out with him when he comes up here to
Yeah.
do your podcast, you got to say I'm going to come down there and we'll do the hog hunt.
Oh my God.
You'd have a blast. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. But yeah, definitely.
So how the fuck? What's a hog hunt? What does this look like?
So
I just picture Branch Warren being all jacked, trying to hide and trying to sneak up on a pig. Like it just sounds way too weird.
So it's a real experience. It's a whole thing, and I believe just to give a few names, I believe Flex Lewis has done it. If you get around to having some of those other guys on it, I know Guy wants to do it, Sisterino,
Yeah.
and a few guys have done it. It's like a whole thing with him. But you go down to Texas, you take like a 2-hour car ride to there's this whole setup. It's a thing. So you get on these 4-wheelers. There's dogs. You track them with dogs, and you head out there. And you do this with your bare hands. So it's a real experience. Oh, yeah. So you trap them with the dogs, and then you go out there with a blade, and
Oh shit.
that's it, And, I mean, when you have Branch on, for your listeners.
I'm picturing him
yeah.
like jumping on the back and just like.
Well, there's a whole, yes, it's a thing. But like when you have Branch on, you'll get an understanding for his attitude and how he talks, and he'll be like, yeah, if you haven't killed an animal with your bare hands, you're not a man yet. Kind of like that whole thing, So he gives you that whole, that whole feeling of like, oh shit, I gotta do.
Did it make you feel more manly?
No, I mean, after I felt like, I got to
Conquered,
admit,
rule and conquer.
I felt like, like Conan after for like about 5 minutes. I was like, yeah, and then I was like, all right, can we get a cheeseburger on the way home? I was like, I got to get out of here. But it's you have to track them, and you're going to run into the woods, and you're out there till like 4 a.m. But it's a lot of fun. I mean, if you ever get a chance to go hunting, my hunting background kind of stops at hog, coyotes, small game, fun stuff like that. Anytime I'm with the guys and it's fun, I'm all set with doing like a 20-mile backcountry hunt. I'm good with that. But I enjoyed that experience. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of bonding that goes on.
What about some of this tactical stuff? I see you guys like in some of those videos doing like
Sure.
burpees and then shooting and so on.
So when I found, or Tony found me, or I found Tony, whatever it is,
Found each other.
Yeah, like a little Jedi and Padawan relationship. So I went down there and I had trained and kind of like I didn't know what it was all about, but I knew I wanted to kind of merge this hybrid between fitness and firearms. So we saw this like clashing of cultures. So the common question I get asked all the time is like, first off is why, fitness and firearms, like a lot of people in the firearms industry are like, what's with all these fitness guys? And a lot of people in the fitness industry are like, what's with all these gun guys coming into our industry? And I always say the same thing. What other culture, can we go into with firearms and they'd be accepting of us? Because everybody in the fitness industry is like, we want to be badass. We want to be raw. I'm a real man. I'm a real woman. I lift weights. They're like, guns, those are cool. So, it's just more about bringing more people into the fight, bringing more people into the culture. So go down and train with Tony, and Tony had, at least in a course structure, merge these two worlds really well. So in his course structure, you're down there, you're doing burpees, you're doing athletic stuff. There's a whole slew of videos out there between his page and my page. You can see him jumping around and doing all this different stuff. And it's more to build your heart rate. So as you build your heart rate, what he's trying to simulate is that moment when somebody, grabs you, well, not necessarily us because we're bigger guys, but maybe grabs your purse or gets you in that high accelerated situation where your heart starts beating out of your chest and you kind of have to defend yourself. And he wants you to get in that mindset and operate through his whole course. So you do the burpees, you do the kicking, you do the punching, you do the grappling, not necessarily because he thinks he's going to make you this better striker overnight on his course, but he's trying to get your heart rate up. He's trying to get you out of your comfort zone. So once you step out of your comfort zone, then he says, okay, let's pick up the guns, let's start shooting, So
It's hard enough to aim as it is.
Exactly. So I always say, if you're going to go take one, Tony always says this, everybody wants to take a real world tactical course, still it's time to go take a real world tactical course because you're going to have, 8 to 10 hours of some real heat, and it's going to be really difficult to do, and it's going to, really put you out of your comfort zone. You're going to be very uncomfortable. You're going to be on the range shooting. And I had done some of the stuff, but when I found Tony was he was on another level, of doing that stuff. I'd been, I had trained with Rob Pincus, who was a notable trainer in the firearms industry, and I had done fit shot training and done a lot of stuff.
Does Tony
like
even
that.
work out anymore? I think he just sets it up for IG.
I think it's a bodysuit. I think he puts it on every morning. It's like this, it's like he's like, I'm going to put on the Tony Sentmanat suit today, and that's why I'm going to go out. But he trains his ass off in
He's
plain
fucking
English.
jacked.
Yeah, he trains his ass off, and Tony has been one of the few guys I've seen add the body weight and size and still be able to move the way
Yeah,
that
how's he able to do it at that size?
You know, he moves like a panther out there. You know, he's real quick. He's good on his feet. You know, when you get
That's
into
a former football player, right?
that's Matt Lear. Matt
Yeah.
Lear was a former Dallas Cowboy, New Orleans Saint. Played for the Buccaneers.
He got
too.
in really good shape.
Yep. Yep. Matt had competed. He had a background in bodybuilding. He actually now is one of the managers down at a firearms distributor that we deal with. But yeah, we had gone on the range. We had trained, done a lot of running around, had some fun. This was part of the 4-day training Saint that we had done. So we were trying to get Johnny Jackson out there too. We would have loved to have him because you get a lot of bodybuilders too that have these military backgrounds and have these law enforcement backgrounds, like Ronnie. You know, Ronnie was a police officer, and they all love the culture, love the industry. You know, and there's Branch taking some shots. So yeah, I mean, it was a lot of fun to get out there, mix it up with those guys, and see some of the equipment, some of the stuff that they were using, and now to see how they've grown, especially Branch and Matt and some of the guys we've trained with, and how they've gotten better. It's a lot of fun.
You mentioned you can control what time you wake up. What time do you wake up?
I get up about 4:30 every morning, usually 4:30.
Early riser.
Oh yeah, anyone around me can attest to that. I am up, I'm ready to go.
Have you always been like that?
Yeah, for the most part, I always like to get up early. I wasn't working as smart as I like to think I am now. I still don't think I'm working as smart as I could be, but I always knew if I picked up a couple extra hours in the morning, I could be better served throughout the day, you know, kind of get my mind right, get my head right, get in the game. By the time I have my second or third cup of coffee, whatever it is that I need to get me going, I usually feel like I can conquer the world. I get in the office by about 7. So at 4 a.m., I do my cardio, do my little bit of training, and then
Cardio?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
I know.
Jay Cutler said yesterday, he said, nobody likes cardio except for me. So maybe you're in that bunch, too.
Jay needs it. He's going to take some size off.
That's right. I know, that's what he's trying to, he said.
What is he, like 230 now, 235?
He said he's 235. He looks like he's 270.
Yeah, he looks enormous.
He's
But
fucking
yeah.
big.
Yeah, he is big.
He's
But-
trying to size down, but still eating 20 egg whites in the morning with oatmeal and all kinds of other shit.
Yeah,
He eats a crazy amount of food.
he's
Do you eat a lot?
I do. I eat 7 times a day throughout the day. So in our office, obviously, you know the Quest Bar guys, Sinister Labs.
Yeah,
all the different
Bruce.
sponsors I work with, Blackstone. We are not in our office at a loss for supplements and for cookies and for snacks and everything laying around, whether it's good or bad. It's everywhere in our office because we've done a lot of firearms for a lot of different fitness companies.
Right, and they want to support you. They want to get some stuff out to
Oh
you.
yeah, I mean it's all over our office because we're constantly, going live. We're on ranges, and we always need stuff to eat and to snack on. So, yeah, I mean that stuff. I get up, go through my routine. Usually by about 7:00, my key hits the office door. I'm in there no later than 7, and from 7 to about 9:30, I'm working with my team on looking at what we did the day before. I love constantly reviewing what I did the day before or the 2 days before. I beat that into their head ad nauseum. They always say, you repeat yourself 100 times. I'm like, I have to because you guys don't listen the first time. So I'm always going through what we conquered the day before, and I like to do a lot of what we call, like on the range, we call them like debriefs and pre-briefs. So I always like to do at the end of each day around 4 or 5 o'clock before I leave the office, we do a little office debrief. That's really important to me. I like to be like, okay, what do we accomplish today? Where are we? Where are we going to be tomorrow? What are we going to hit? So that stuff is just something that, we took off the range and took out of the gym because kind of post-workout, you sit around with the guys, you rap a little bit.
Shoot the shit.
Where are we? What do we want to accomplish? So
Yeah, what's the next workout
what's the
look
next
like?
workout look like? Then I'll hit the iron maybe in the latter part of the day, and I head home and have a couple more meals and kind of decompress by watching. My new fascination is I don't have cable, so my new fascination now is watching YouTube and trying to master, why YouTube videos look the way they look and why they're successful and why they're not. So I try to study all that stuff ad nauseum.
I think there's like YouTube TV now. I don't know what they're doing with some of that, but there's
Red TV or something. It's called YouTube Red.
Yeah. I have YouTube Red, but then there's they're doing a bunch of different stuff right now. They're trying to revamp it, I guess.
I try to do things that are purpose driven. So like I purposely canceled my cable, and I purposely had to be forced to watch a lot of like that YouTube-y, social media stuff, everything else. So now when I'm home, I'm trying to study that stuff even in my leisure. So I'm kind of...
I wonder if anybody even gets like the value out of their cable. Because I don't think it just seems like people aren't watching TV as much. I know there's like programs that people will watch, but you don't really need cable for that anymore.
You don't.
It
You can.
pops up on like Netflix, and
I have
you can
a
find everything on YouTube pretty much.
coming up from the media side. I have a social media belief because of what you're just saying. Like I think we saw print die. We're seeing cable start to die. I have a belief that as time goes on, and I think every media guy kind of in some way thinks the same way as I do, because you see it coming. It's just clear as day that you're going to be able to go in your smart TV. It's just going to be a search bar. You're going to be able to search Mark Bell, and you're going to be able to watch everything Mark Bell's doing, whether that's on one platform or multiple platforms. To an extent, you can do it now, but I think it's going to become much more prevalent as time goes on, because nobody really cares about Law and Order SVU anymore. Go look at the ratings. I mean, they're terrible. Nobody really cares about any of those shows. I mean, very few of them do well in pockets. And I think people do want to escape reality and go to a movie or watch some of that stuff. But
A lot of people have the TV on in the background, and they're not actually watching it.
they're not
It's
watching.
just on.
Other than sports. Sports is saving cable TV right now, in
Right.
my opinion. I mean, NFL, NHL, all those different avenues to watch sports. I think that's what saves cable
And
TV.
people don't want to watch TV on someone else's time.
No,
You know, they don't.
absolutely not.
So like DVR did help, but it's still like, yeah, you can just YouTube everything the next day or whatever.
Like, I'd much rather watch, like, if I could, like, I think you guys should have a live stream in the gym. Like, I'd much rather watch you guys train than I would watch something
Yeah.
that's fake. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that would be much more real to me.
Yeah, whenever we do a live stream, it's usually pretty successful. We do have to try to figure some of that out. Like sometimes it gets screwed up because of the music.
I'd be
Yeah.
willing, I'd be willing to bet almost any amount of money with anybody the moment that we can stream live and almost create our own reality TV show from like a fixed camera, because the biggest pain in the ass is holding the camera. Once we can stream live from a fixed
They got
unit,
shit that'll like follow you around now
Yeah.
and stuff, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think you're gonna see most of your cable, everything else, just start to die. More with it, because I think people want that. They want the real experience. They want the real time experience.
Right.
Oh, especially guys, the folks that follow you in the powerlifting community and everything else. They're like, oh, let's see what Smokey's doing today. And you can type it in and you can watch.
Yeah, they want to see what you're doing, what you're actually doing, how you're actually doing it, what you're eating.
Yeah, they want that. Like you look in the fitness industry, guys that are already, getting it. You look at like Mike O'Hearn. Mike O'Hearn does a good job giving you that insight, that in-depth look. He loves his dogs. You see him around the house hanging out. I mean, in a way, he's a reality TV show right now in itself. He's got something like 3 Instagram pages now, and he's got, his YouTube and everything
Right.
else. I mean, you can watch him and Heath pretty much do everything together, on those channels. So that's really cool. I mean, I think the guys that are getting it and are adapting faster are growing quicker. Tony
Right.
gives you some tremendous. Tony is almost all videos now at this point. Go to his page; it's all video.
Right.
So why is his page shot out of a cannon and doing so well?
Right.
You know what I mean? He's almost 90% video. He saw the value in video and went to it.
Yeah, video's huge.
It's huge.
What do you guys do with social media?
So it's a great question. I'm actually exploring doing a podcast right now, but for the most part, our social media department's really what we've done in the firearms business. I think those of you, your guys that follow us, will attest. We don't do that stodgy media that we've seen in the past from certain companies out there in the gun industry, the Smith & Wessons, other folks that have kind of become a little flat in their marketing. We try to do more upbeat, more exciting stuff, more range videos, more the testing videos, which has all been the kind of behind the curtain stuff, we're kind of peeking behind the curtain, which is always the next evolution of everybody's marketing, right? In the beginning, you see the clean printed package. Here's my slingshot. It's nice and clean. But we kind of evolved it into, we're going to show you us testing the firearms. We're going to show you the good, the bad, the ugly. We're going to show you behind the scenes. We're going to make our customer service person a star. We're going to make like I tell everybody in my office, you can all be, Falcor or social media stars if you want to be. We'll put you on there, but if you don't want to be, that's cool too.
Right.
We'll make you one. But we try to, constantly look at what other industries are doing. I love what you're doing here. I think this stuff is really exciting. It's cutting edge. I think podcasts are a great way to go because they live forever.
Right.
So I really like that. I definitely, we're limited. I definitely want to explore anything outside of print. I'll take a look at. I want to get away from some of the more review-based stuff. I think a lot of that's become hokey and a little bit of Jedi mind trick. Like,
Right.
hey, Mark, send me your slingshot. I'll do a review for you. I kind of like, sometimes I'm like, hey, dude, I got Real World Tactical on the payroll. Like, you really think I need you to do a review for me? Like it gets into that place. So like I would say we're moving away from some of that more review T&E. Let me try your stuff and tell you what I think. Like, cool, but
Do you guys try to be like persuasive in any way, like just showing different kinds of people with guns, just so people are associating it back to themselves rather than just like one particular type of guy or
That's
girl?
an excellent question, actually. We're trying to get away from some of the more like what you saw in firearms ads and stuff like that. Was like on the cover of your book there. You have the guy in the fatigues, and he's
sexy son of a bitch.
is sexy. So he's clearly a military guy. He's clearly has to have that rifle in his hand, right? And I think what scares the shit out of the general public and everything else is a lot of the gun companies are seeing kind of what we did at Falcor, which is a lot of the T-shirt and jeans. Hey, I got a gun and I'm wearing a T-shirt and jeans. Like, whoa, like, no, you're supposed to have a uniform on, or you're supposed to have fatigues on. We're kind of doing that disassociation thing. And we have a lot of females, obviously, that shoot for us. And we have a female owner, Melinda Sanju. So, a lot of the ads and a lot of the marketing we're doing is to relate to the everyday person.
Just making it less complicated.
Less complicated.
It just having the barrier of entry into it just being like all you gotta do is buy it.
Yeah, but we're trying to relate to the guy going in the gun store that's going to have jeans and a T-shirt on, and he's going to want to purchase a firearm and go to the range. And what's he going to wear to the range? Battle fatigues? No, he's going to wear jeans and a T-shirt. He's going to have a good time. He's going to be comfortable. He's going to shoot some rounds. He's going to enjoy himself. But that's what we market towards. You buy with your eyes. You buy with your eyes.
When were you first exposed to guns?
So the first time I started shooting at a young age, obviously I had shot firearms in the past, but I really didn't get headlong into shooting till I got to about college. So I was out in UMass and Amherst, and I'm out in Western Mass, and I had a couple roommates that shot regularly and owned guns. So I started shooting, and I was like, this is fun. Like, it's a good stress reliever,
Mm-hmm.
Like PJ Braun, the owner of Blackstone Labs, he says it's like his best stress reliever since he discovered it. So, it's a huge stress reliever for folks. So started shooting then, and then joined clubs and would go to the range probably from 21 to about 25. I had done it fairly consistently almost every weekend. I was on a range or doing something. So yeah, that was about my first exposure to it. And I started out shooting shotguns. Then I, bought all the wrong stuff. Then you buy all the right stuff, and you go through that gamut, that exercise, and started learning as I trained with more folks what the right things to buy and what made sense to buy. And that's always a debate.
Were you pretty curious about like how they were made and stuff like that? Were you kind of looking at them and maybe over a period of time you were like, I wish they did this to this one, or I wish,
Yeah, I would start to pick them apart in my mind. I think we all kind of do that. Especially
some people build their own gun, right?
Some people build their own
Smokey,
stuff.
I think,
Yeah,
built his.
we're in California.
Oh, sorry.
80 percenters. A lot of folks like that. They call it the DIY market, the do-it-yourself market. There's a lot of folks that like to do that stuff. We don't necessarily cater to that market, but I love it myself. I love tinkering and toying around. I wish I was a better gunsmith. I'm not. I hire much better gunsmiths than myself. But yeah, I mean, I would look at firearms and I would look at different things and I'd be like, geez, this would be cool if this had this, or geez, this would be cool if this had that. And then I would go to ranges and I would use them, and I would use them in an abusive way that I felt that they would get used, similar to some of the videos you saw with us training, and I would realize what worked and what didn't. And the term like ounces become pounds becomes really real when you're out there in full gear and it's like 110 degrees and you're trying to run around and do all that stuff. And yeah,
that's what Jason Harrison was talking about on the podcast, the owner of Kuyu. He was he was mentioning that they had to make things lightweight, and you have to do something similar with the guns.
Oh yeah. Especially when you go on those backcountry hunts where Kuyu markets to that, deep woods hunter that's going to go deep into a hunt.
Be gone for several days.
Yeah,
2 weeks.
And Branch does some of those. He can talk about that. I know Melinda at Falco has done some of those. They really want to design fabrics and things that'll stand up to all weather conditions, to everything else. And anytime you're buying gear or anytime you're exploring buying gear, I think you can attest to this with your stuff. You want to make sure it's durable. You want to make sure it stands up to the mission, and you want to have gear that's mission specific. So whether the mission is doing a bench press, you're going to have a set of stuff that suits that need. Whether the mission is walking to the mall, like Tony and I had this talk one time. We went on for like 20 minutes. Like, where do you carry your gun when you go to the mall? Do you carry it at appendix, or do you carry it 3 o'clock? And why? And like, where do you prefer? And sometimes we'll get into these debates and not know we're kind of geeking out for like 20 minutes about that stuff, and then I'm like, whoa, back to normal. What are you eating tonight? But I think all that stuff starts to play into it when you start to hyperanalyze things. But I look at things as, especially in the firearms world, as well. What the first question they get asked, people will say, well, I want to buy a gun. They say, what should I buy? I say, buy the gun you can shoot accurately and you can conceal the best. How about that? We start there. Well, the gun I shoot the most accurate is an AR-15. Well, that's not going to work because you can't conceal it. So what should I look at next? And most of the time, that's why, you see people that they always say Glock 19, because it's the most concealable and most accurate gun that most people can fire, and it makes the most sense to buy from a cost-effective standpoint. But I think for the most part, you want to always analyze things based on what's the mission, what's in front of me. Do I have to... If I have to run at a certain time, if you say, John, we're going to go out there, we're going to train, and I want to see you give me 50 reps, okay, well, I need my wrist straps for that, or what do I need? So it's always mission specific in anything. And KUIU would be huge for that because their clothing is going to be based on where you're going, what you're hunting.
Do you think everyone should own a gun?
No.
It just kind of depends on, whether people are into it or not, or...
No, I think that there's certain folks, whether it's through mental disability or through some type of, what's the term I'm looking for? Mental incapacitation. I don't think that they should. I think everybody should have the right to, and that right should be determined based on mental health, number one. And I think number two, the ability to perform the basic functions, which would be passing a basic NRA test or passing any type of fundamental, exam.
Sense.
Yeah, that's what's required by most states. But no, I do not think everybody should.
What's some basic gun 101? Like, how the hell do these things work? What's the
So-
technology behind them?
So there's a bunch of different firearms out there. For years, we were used to the Browning 1911 as a handgun. Then it evolved into polymer and what we call polymer as plastics, and plastics are polymer. So polymer would be like your Glock and things like that. And then obviously the big demon out there, people call it an assault rifle, which is a made-up term, is the AR-15 and the AR-15 platform. The AR-15 is a gas gun. It's a stoner design. It has the ability to take a box magazine and fire a projectile, 223, 556, the most common. Then it goes up to 308, and then it goes 6.5 Creedmoor. You see guys with 300 Win Mag. And the biggest thing debated in the gun industry, or what's discussed like ad nauseum, is like caliber. You get on these forums, you get in these places, and people want to debate caliber all day. Well, I carry a 9mm, and a lot of the older guys are like, well, I carry a 45 because stopping power. So you get into these caliber debates, and they're always fun. And every time I get on my live, I think Smokey's seen it a few times. I'm like, I'm not getting into a caliber debate tonight. Like, we're not doing calibers tonight, because someone will chime in like, you got to come out with this or you got to come out with that. But some of the basics of firearms, I think if you're buying a firearm for the first time, people always say don't consult the guy behind the counter. I would tend to agree with that. I would say first go and shoot a bunch of guns. Go to the range, find a friend. Everybody has a friend that is into it. Go shoot a bunch of guns, see what you enjoy, see what you like, and then decide what you're going to be. Are you going to conceal carry? Or are you going to be someone who's a hunter? Are you going to be someone that's going to, just be kind of someone who goes to the range, is like a range guy? For all those people, I think the application usage, what you're going to buy is going to be different. The application usage is going to dictate what you're going to buy. So I would say first start there and then have a budget. I mean, you can spend a lot of money. I know any of you guys that own firearms in here, and Smokey can attest to, you can spend a lot of money real quick, real fast on firearms. So I would say come up with a budget that makes sense. And then, kind of after you get your head around what it is you want, don't be afraid to be wrong.
Right.
And go back to the drawing board and find something else. But I would say grip. And I would say, how you hold the gun and how you conceal it, especially if you're in a concealed carry state, are going to be most important. Getting a good positive grip on the firearm, and then how you're going to conceal it, and getting to the range and getting rounds down range. Because the only way to get better at anything, whether it's lifting weights or shooting, is reps. You got to get reps.
Right.
You got to get the reps. So go take a course. There's a lot of good instructors out there. You got to start somewhere. That's kind of how I started. I would go and I would sit through like a training, or I would sit through, like a concealed carry course, and I would kind of absorb what the guy was telling me. And you start out local, and then you find like the really good shooter at the club, just like you find the really good lifter at the gym, and then you kind of attach yourself to his hip for a little while. You learn from him, and then it goes upstream a little bit. You know what I mean? There's a lot better shooters out there than I will ever be. There's a lot better pros out there than I will ever be. There's a lot better tacticians than I'll ever be. But I like to say I'm a student of a lot of the games. I kind of studied them all a little bit, and I know a lot of the players involved in it. And I kind of made my selections and my personal choices based off of that. And I think that's what anybody should do, is kind of figure out what you like, figure out what you can conceal, figure out what you enjoy shooting, and back into it from there.
Are there guns just everywhere where you work?
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, of course, all over. You walk around Falcor, we're always testing stuff. We're always looking at stuff. We're always, kind of staring at things like, I like that, or that way this looks, or I don't like this. So we have stuff laid out almost every day, kind of like you guys do here. It's another tool. It's another part of the job, and we're constantly analyzing what we like, what we don't like on something.
Even though it's common, you guys probably still get super excited.
Oh,
right? You
super,
see something
yeah.
new, right? You're probably like, holy
oh yeah,
shit,
we're
can't
always
believe the way it
and we're
looks.
looking at other company stuff, so we're always bringing in other company stuff. That's one thing since I've been at Falcor, we've done a ton of, is bringing other company stuff. I have no problem, making sure that we have the best SIG has to offer, or Smith & Wesson, or Colt, or whoever else, and we'll bring it into the office and we'll try it out ourselves. And I'll be like, geez, I really like what they did
Yeah,
here.
why not? Someone else is executing well on it. It's not shameful to admit it.
Yeah, I
right?
mean, and if they're doing it wrong, we want to make sure, we don't do the same thing. I mean, I have my opinions about a lot of companies, about a lot of the ways they do things, but I always like to think we're doing it the best, because we're getting to the range a lot more. And similar to in here, you guys have a gym right in the facility, so you can go right out there and get right to the testing and evaluation process. And that's the same for me. I mean, we get to the range constantly. We try to get to the range even more than we do. But our guys shoot all the time. I mean, we're constantly...
Where does this all start? Like, somebody like draw a picture of it, or like, how does it start? Like from start to finish.
So
what does it look like when you make a gun?
It's a great question.
Seems confusing to me.
It can be. So we're working on something right now without getting too into it, you know what I mean? Without staying,
giving
away some of the secret sauce of what we're working on. We're working on something right now that literally we've started from the ground up. So you start with kind of like, what are we missing in our SKUs, or what do we feel like we could have, or we could really rock with, and what is the industry demanding? That's kind of the process with, I think, anything, right, Mark? So you think you look at, what is the industry asking us for? And I'm trying not to say, we're working on something that's the industry's been demanding for a long time. And we've seen the rise of what we call like pistol caliber carbines and smaller range pistols like the SIG MPX, like the MP5, the die-hard gun, all that stuff. So we kind of wanted to develop something that we felt we could stand by and that made a lot of sense. And we literally just started with a caliber. So we said, here's what we want to do. And then from that, we started talking about size and weight and how big we want it and where we wanted the handguard. Then we start to slowly chip away at what makes sense to kind of add to it. And, well, somebody might want to put a rail here, or somebody might want to put a light there. And we have to start to think about those things. And then where we're going to put the stock. And you kind of, a lot of times you end up designing rifles and stuff around the magazines, what magazines you have available. So if you're going to design a 223 or a 5.56, you're going to design it, on the AR-15 platform. Why? Because the acceptance of the magazine associated with it. So a lot of people who have done pistol caliber carbines or 9mm design them around the Glock magazine. You see that big stick mag, shoved into it. So I think you start with kind of the caliber and the direction you want to go in and what you feel you're missing. If you have tons of pistols, you're going to design a rifle. If you have tons of rifles, you may design a pistol. So we looked at what we were missing and what made sense. And then it goes to machining. You take the print and you do the CAD, you do the design, and you go to machining, and then you design a bolt, which is the tricky, one of the trickier parts. You have to design a bolt, and then you have to fix it with a barrel. See, the barrel's already available, so the companies make the barrels.
What's kind of the most expensive process in the whole thing?
R&D, no question. Yeah. R&D, because you're going to make 100 mistakes. I don't care who you are, you've made them. I mean, you're going to scrap a bunch of things, just like you probably have a scrap pile a mile long.
Absolutely.
So scrap is probably the biggest thing. Good thing about scrap in the firearms business is it's metal, and that has a redeeming quality because you can make a little money back off some of your scrap. But I would say R&D would be without question.
Yeah. Most. How long does it take to make a gun from kind of start to finish when you're making a new product?
I would say if you've done it in under 6 months, you probably broke every record.
Yeah.
I would say 6 to 8 months would be a fair assessment to get it to testing.
Right.
And then when you get it to testing, from there, if you feel like you have something, like everybody looks around the room and it's not going full auto, it's not banging, it's not it's not malfunctioning, and you have something that works, then you go to mass production. And then from there, it could take you another 2 or 3 months. But anything under a year is a total home run.
Yeah.
You may tease it similar. Our show structure is similar to yours. You may tease something at SHOT Show, and then, you may have it by the following year.
Do you guys share like obviously you're not going to share like all the technology, but do you guys like on your website or on YouTube, do you guys have like do you show the guns coming off the machines or
Yep.
anything like that? A little bit of stuff like that
Yeah,
behind the scenes.
once we get to a final and there's patents and trademarks involved, and there's all kinds of people crying patent thief and crying trademark thief. You go through. I mean, the owner's always, everybody's always crying about lawyers, of course, because they cost a fortune. And then once you patent everything and you have everything down, or you have the trademarks and everything, even trademarking the name on the guns becomes a thing, because you don't want to tease too much and give the name away, because then someone's going to go out there and trademark the name before you do, and then it becomes a whole asshole thing. But you have to be very careful about that. But we do show a lot of stuff coming off the machines, showing the process, and we want people to see our stuff is made in Montana. It's made in the USA. It's manufactured right, in the great state of Montana, right there on the floor. We want to tell that story. That's really important to us, that everything is made in the USA.
What's been the biggest change moving from Boston to Montana?
People.
Yeah.
No question. Obviously, being from the East Coast, we move fast. We like to get things done. We like to get through our day. We like, there's a little more skip in our step, there's a little more hustle. There is something to be said about the laid back West Coast lifestyle. I mean,
It's almost like you just kind of have anxiety, being from the East Coast, because there's gonna be like traffic, and like you just know there's gonna be like you just feel like you have to go out and like get a bunch of shit done.
yes,
And
always.
it's not that same urgency
yeah,
in Montana. Probably,
in
right?
Montana, I have like a Walmart and I have like a Target. But I do get like I said, I get my dose back a little bit when I go down to Boca and I go to Blackstone. At least I'm near Miami, and I'll go down to Miami, or I go back home. So I get my dose. But yeah, definitely the people. I've had a hard time adjusting to the people, because everybody's just kind of like a little bit slower, a little bit
Yeah.
more, and I'm kind of like, come on, like we got to get this done. Have a sense of urgency.
How long you been living there for now?
Now I'm there 7 months.
Oh,
8
okay.
months, yeah.
Yeah, you've been there for a little bit.
Yeah.
What's your training like? You
So
bodybuilding, you powerlift. You mentioned powerlifting earlier. I know you trained with Branch and stuff.
I hate the term power bodybuilding. I don't know how you feel about it.
Yeah, I hear it all the time.
I hear it all the time. I think it's like one of those weird.
Well, it's a little weird, yeah, because like anyone who's ever powerlifted, that's what powerlifting is. You powerlift with the main movement, and then you always, forever. Like I've been in powerlifting for almost 30 years, and we always did bodybuilding after our main movement. So it's always been, it's always been that way.
Yeah, there's something about the term just feels icky to me. But I like to think my training is a little bit of hybrid training, where I'm doing my core movements, I'm doing my bodybuilding stuff, and then I'll get into some of the more fitness, or what I call like HIIT training. I'll do some of the high intensity athlete type stuff. So I'll get out there, and I always make sure cardio is a big part of my day. It has to be, because if I'm going to go down and train with Tony and train with these guys, I have to be able to move. If I can't move, I'm dead, for lack of better words.
What kind of cardio? Do you mix up your cardio, or is it just like you're on a step mill or something like
So
that?
I did the step mill for a long time. That was kind of my go-to. Now I kind of go outside my building, and I've been doing sprints. I've been doing a lot of that stuff. So I live in like a community. So like I'll go out there, I have a side street, and I'll do like my 10, 20 sprints in the morning.
Is that to stay like a certain body fat percentage, or is it?
It's more so to keep my quicks. That's the term I like. I keep my quickness, keep my first.
Gotcha.
I gotta have that first step, especially when I go to the range and you're doing a lot of those, dynamic type movements where you might have to move with the gun or draw or pull up a rifle. I have to have like a little bit of my quickness. I'll do a little bit of like lunging, and
It's actually a really very intuitive, because people that are quick, people that are fast, tend to live a long life, because if you're quick and you're fast, it usually means you're healthy.
Yeah, when I played sports, I ballooned up to about 250 pounds, 260 pounds. I was getting fat, I carried all that weight. As I've gotten older, and I think you probably can attest to this, I felt carrying the weight was a detriment.
Right.
I wanted to trim back some of the weight. And that doesn't mean I have to be ripped to be, a bodybuilder. But then, when I started doing more in fitness And PJ called me, and I started doing the Blackstone thing and the Sinister Labs thing. They were kind of like, "There's one catch, you got to get in shape." So I kind of had to start to.
You're like, what? I'm not
Yeah,
in shape.
I was like, what? Like, so I had
I'm shredded.
I had to find my abs, and I had to find my stomach, and I had to find, the things that worked. So I got a lot of good advice from Branch, and from those guys, and guys, Sisterino and Tony and everything else, and kind of refined my training and got
Clan and Trend.
a little bit of both. So found my training a little bit, my supplementation, and I kind of was like, okay, I got this kind of dialed in. It kind of makes sense, but the Pop Tarts are over here, so I need, so I kind of had ditching the sweets was the hardest part, though. I mean,
Yeah.
I was a sweet junkie. I like my snacks.
Do you cheat now?
I've been known to dabble with the occasional ice cream or anything else. I keep in my freezer the M&M ice cream deals, so I
Gotcha.
can swear by that. I still do like to have, there's nothing better than like a toasted muffin in the morning or something like that, and just little things like I miss
Right.
from my fat days. Sundays are still a little bit for pizza. I feel like you have to have it. I know you do the big no carbs thing. I don't know how much of a dieharder you are about the no carbs, but I do my best. I do a good job. I like to think I do it better than most. I mean, I'll go 2 weeks hardcore where the carbs are just like oatmeal, a few things.
And I think that if people could make it that long, I think that most people would be in shape. I think that anywhere between a 10 and 12 day window of eating really well, whatever that
Clean.
means for you.
Yeah.
Like it might mean something different. Like I don't have anything against carbs. I think that for being functional and for being strong in the gym and for performance, that carbohydrates are 100% needed. I've always had a hard time keeping them in there because I tend to want to overeat them.
Yeah. I think we've all been asked at one time in this room, how do I eat healthy by somebody? And my answer is always simple. I said, eating healthy is like a budget. If Target doesn't sell it, don't buy it. Eat light white meats, you know what I mean? Clean. And if the liquid, you can't see through it, it's probably not good for you, if it's not clear. But light white meats, clear liquids, and I always say just rice. Well, what carbs should I have? Rice and oatmeal. Rice and oatmeal. That's a template for almost anybody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you start with that template, I think you'll be okay. If you're talking about getting on stage, that's different. If you're talking, that's totally different stuff. I'm not talking about getting on stage. I'm not talking about competing. I'm talking about a basic, fundamental day-to-day template. Now you can get into the whole debate of potatoes versus rice and everything else.
How much fat.
And how much fat and all that, bullshit. But it's really just a matter of if you're 300 pounds and you need to lose 200, start there.
Right.
And back into it from there. And then I think you'll get to a point where eventually you'll be able to refine it a little bit more. But for me, it was really a struggle giving up the sweets and things like that. But as I did, and I got the supplementation down, and I knew what to be taking, when to be taking it, less is more, and all that stuff, I really was dialed in.
Andy Galpin mentioned something on the podcast that I thought was really funny because he's one of the smarter people we've ever had on the show. He said if you stare at somebody long enough, they'll know about nutrition. So if somebody was like, hey, every night I have just a couple slices of pizza, is that okay? And he said, I just fucking stare at them, and they'll come up with the right answer. And it's kind of funny because I think what you're saying is that at this point we should know.
You should know.
We should have a decent idea of the things that are harming us and the things that are good for us. And when it comes to the drinks that you have, I mean, we already know that you shouldn't be drinking soda multiple times a day. Can you drink it and can you be fine? Sure, you can, but you can't abuse it.
Yeah.
You got to really pay attention to what you're putting into your body.
I think especially if you're going to be doing any type of high-intensity training, anything that's going to involve elements, heat, anything else, you're going to be sweating, putting your body through the paces, anything you're going to be doing, I think you really have to be aware, especially now with us, too. We travel so much.
Yeah.
Like, that's one thing Branch, Tony, myself, we're always talking about. Like, we travel so much, we're on the road so much, you have to really be aware of what you put in your body. Even when you go to dinner, you can make smart choices when you're out. You can get a steak, you can get a piece of chicken. Does it have to be prepared dry with no butter, no nothing? I mean, I'm not stepping on stage tomorrow, so my short answer to that's no. But I think you should be making, like you said, smart choices. Don't look at the menu and order the bloomin' onion and 4 potatoes and a side of fries. I mean, chances are that's not going to be healthy for you, and it's not going to work out. But
right. If you can even get something that represents a 7 out of 10 in terms of your performance with your diet, I mean, normally that's good enough. I mean, if you have some sort of metabolic problems, you might
if you
have to be
train
more
hard,
strict.
and I think we all can attest this, if you train really hard, and by hard I mean after training with Branch, I know what hard training is. If you train hard and you put your body through the paces, and you like, I'm not saying you need to go do a Tony workout or a branch workout, but if you're leaving there and you're sweaty and you need to change your shirt, that's my definition of training hard. You need to change your clothes, and you need to take a shower, you train hard.
Right.
If you train hard and you burn the calories and you put the time in, can you get away with a 7 out of 10 or even a 6 out of 10?
Right.
Of course you can, because you'll make up those other 2 points through the hard training. Now, if you're training at a 2, okay, if you're training at a 2 and you're not leaving there sweaty, and you got your makeup on still and you leave pristine, you better
Mike O'Hearn.
Mikey, you better be, your diet better be at a 20.
Yeah.
I mean, it better be chicken and rice measured at that point. You know what I mean? Because you can get away with it. I've trained with a lot of pros that I walk away and I'm like, that dude's a pussy. Like, and I'm like, holy shit. I thought I was, I suck.
Yeah.
And like, Branch or somebody would just look at me and be like, yeah, I know they suck, whatever. But like, yeah, you see it. I've seen it, and I'm sure you've seen it. I don't have to tell you. I mean, you walk away and you're like, that guy was weak as shit,
Right.
But they diet well. They get other things well.
Right.
They do the other things right. And you can get it. That goes for anything. I mean, that goes for the gym. That goes for the range. There are guys who take really good shots. And then there are guys, the minute their heart starts beating and they start running around, they can't do it.
What's up with your love of Coke Zero?
I do have a love of, I knew that, I was going to bring that up to cover my ass. I was going to do some CYA, but I do have a secret love of Coke Zero. So I justify it by saying the bubbles get my belly nice and full, if that works. I don't know if that'll work, but
that's beyond bro science.
Yeah, bro science. I don't drink seltzer water, and I don't drink a lot of.
They've changed the name of Coke Zero. It's like Coke Zero Sugar or something, right?
Yeah,
I'm not
Like
sure.
I don't know that people were confused by it or something weird.
I don't know, but I did have
It
someone.
does taste good.
I haven't had it yet.
The first Coke Zero I had actually was down in.
Tastes almost just like regular Coke.
It was down at Icon
Not
Meals.
far off.
Is this a commercial?
No.
No, of course not.
The first Coke, of course. Wait, are they paying? The first Coke Zero I had was down at Icon Meals. It was down there, and they had a few on the table, and I had one, and I was like, this is good. I'm like, there's nothing in this, and I think Brian Shaw was down there. Whatever he's eating in the corner, and I'm like, this is good. I'm like, can I get another one? And I think Brian was like, no, leave. But I'm like, no, they're really good, and I was like, I got home and I had to find these things. So yeah,
They make Sprite that way too.
Don't get me started. But I think, every conference room I'm in now, I make sure is stocked with Coke Zero so I can have something that'll fill me up. So if I get the urge to reach for like a cookie or a brownie, so you talk about making smart choices, and I know I'm going to go that far because my brain's going there and I need it, I'm going to have a Coke Zero instead because it'll fill me up.
Yeah, it was your buddy Sam Cummins. He tipped me off to Coke Zero.
Sam knows because he's in my office.
Yeah, he's saying that everyone back in the shop is watching and listening along right now.
Well, I'm glad everyone back in the Falcor shop. I would say
Shouldn't
hi.
they be fucking working?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Back to work.
I want to say hi to everyone in the shop, though. Sam, Jen, Jacob, who I know is sick, and Casey. And I know Derek is probably out of the office, probably home working, and Michelle, Melinda, and Jason.
It's important to have a good team, huh?
Oh, yeah. I mean, definitely important to have a good team. You have to have a team that's engaged constantly, and they all are, and they're excellent.
It makes it fun to go to work.
Oh, I love it.
You look forward to it every day, right?
I want to hang out with them all day, but I can't. It's like, I love my team. I think
you can't let your guard down too much.
You can't let your guard down too much.
Yeah.
They're a great crew. Similar to here, they have a lot of fun. They get to enjoy themselves as long as the work gets done. That's always the most important thing. But they'll tell you I repeat myself 7 times a day, like I always say, because I have to get the point across to them because they want to grab the Nerf guns. They want to run around the office, just like you get a little archery set up back there, everything else. So, yeah, but they're a great crew.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, it is important to have a good crew around you. When it comes to like artificial sweeteners and stuff like that, you hear people make such a big deal about it. For some reason, in the bodybuilding world, guys don't seem to care about it as much. I think maybe just because their overall health is probably headed in the right direction because they eat so well and they just have a lifestyle, right?
But are they healthy? I don't. I think that starts to stem into the debate of like, lesser of two evils. You know what I mean? And that's kind of what I was getting at with the Coke Zero. I think that's where that's going. I've been known to have a Splendor in my coffee every now and then. Do I still have a little cream in my coffee? Absolutely, I do. I have a little sweetener.
I just think that things matter less when you're healthier. I even think that body fat, I think, is a sign of poor health. Like when you have excess body fat.
Yeah, I think as you get older, carrying it becomes a detriment. You know, when you're younger, can you get away with it a little bit? Absolutely. I mean, I think, was it your brother joked where it was just a fat kid from Poughkeepsie, I think you can get away with it a little bit when you're younger and you still have that quick first step, or you have that ability to still go in the gym and rip weights, and you have your wind. But I think as you get older, 25 turns into 35, turns into 45, carrying any extra weight is going to become a real problem. And I think it's going to become a detriment. I mean, it'll make you, no doubt, I feel younger. I mean, what am I, 37? And I feel like I'm a lot younger because I took the time to train and to eat right over the years and take care of my body. I run into friends from high school. I run into friends I haven't seen in 20 years, and they look like shit. I mean,
they look like shit, and they're in tons of pain too all the time. It's amazing. They're like, oh, I've had a back surgery, and I had this, and I had that, and you're like, from what?
Yeah.
And they're not even training. They're not even working out.
And I'm out there running around on ranges, getting run over, getting kicked by Tony, getting thrown in in a cage by Branch, So I'm saying to myself, oh, geez, what am I crying about, But yeah, I think if you stay healthy, you take care of your body, you take care of your diet, and you walk that line. And I don't buy into the bullshit that people are like, oh, it's easier for you. And I'm sure you get that. It's easier for you. Why is it easier for me? Why is it easier? I still have to get into the gym for the same amount of time that's necessary. I still have to prepare my food just like everybody else. Well, you have someone who sends you meals. Well, yeah, I have Icon meals that get sent to my house, but at the same time, I still have to, prepare 20 years I prepared meals. I didn't always have that.
Right.
I'm traveling the country. I was living in my car practically.
Well, you also earned it. Nothing's really actually free.
Yeah.
People be like, oh, free food. It's like not really. It's not really free. It's like I've trained for 20 years, and then somebody send me some free fucking meals here and there.
Oh, you get a box of cookies and the haters come out. Forget it. So it's like.
How about that Icon popcorn?
It's unbelievable,
dude. What's up? Todd Abrams is an asshole. Why did he make
that? Todd is a genius at finding.
I hate him. He's thrown me off my diet so many times with that fucking popcorn.
So one of the endearing terms in the business industry of success is you produced, popcorn in a movie theater. So like you did for gym stuff, it's like popcorn in a movie theater. Right. He actually made popcorn, that's perfect. So the markup on popcorn, in case anybody doesn't know, is like 11,000%. So
oh my God.
Shit. Nobody cry for Todd.
Poor guy.
Popcorn is I've always felt popcorn is a weird overrated thing until I had his popcorn.
It's awesome.
Because popcorn is just like a transport system of butter and salt. And like I could sit there with a spoon and have butter and have the same enjoyment.
I've never heard it put that way. That's
all it is. I mean, I'm
gonna write that down.
I've heard that said also about salad. Salad's just a transport system for unhealthy shit because people put ranch dressing and a bunch of other weird shit on
Thousand
there.
Island.
Yeah,
but that's a great product, and he changes the flavors all the time, and you go down there, he knows what he has. You go down there, he pours it in giant bowls. He's like, "Here, have a party," and I'll see.
But
those guys.
But he's lean as shit. I think he's just trying to throw everybody off their game.
Well, he was just training with O'Hearn, so he probably trained for like 6 weeks before he went out to train with Mike, because Mike's like, "Oh, you're 6% body fat. That's 3 too many."
Yeah.
In good shape. You look at guys like Mike, and Mike gives, we're talking about transformations in bodies and diet. Mike has like one of the worst before and after photos in history because he's always been in such good shape, and he's like 50. So he gives me, I look at guys like him, and he gives me hope for the next 10 or 15 years that I can actually
what was he like? Maybe at like 15, he was super jacked, right?
Yeah.
I think for a little while he did have a little bit of a powerlifting thing going on where he was a little bit thicker, but he was never fat.
Yeah, he was a little lost, but in the powerlifting mix. But I think that was part of that early '90s powerlifting craze, and it died again.
Yeah,
and you kind of resurrected it a little bit more.
He probably saw the Barbarian Brothers in Gold's Gym, and probably wanted to lift more weight.
That early '90s, but the popcorn, I mean, because I mentioned Mike, he's a part of that Icon family with me, Brian, a few of us, but that stuff is awesome. If you ever get a chance to get a bucket of it delivered to your house,
amazing.
You gotta have
What's your favorite movie?
Oh man, that's a loaded question. My favorite movie of all time? I would say a movie I could watch over and over again and laugh. Big Trouble in Little China. And I'm sure the boys back in the shop are laughing because, well, you have to understand, Falcor's theme is dragons and things like that. You know, it has that Eastern influence. So we always joke that we're going to dress somebody up like Lopan at one of the shows or something like that. So Big Trouble in Little China is a huge, cult movie in case anyone hasn't seen it. But
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of like stupid, bad 80s movies that,
You like Airplane and
oh, God.
Naked Gun and shit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that
Those
stuff.
are
All
good.
that stuff. I could talk about them all day. Back to the Future, all the hokey lines.
You know what? I actually think I've seen Back to the Future probably, man, I would say I've probably seen it like 100 times.
Not even intentionally.
Yeah,
It's
no,
just if
yeah.
it's on, you'll
Well,
just leave it on.
It has to stay on.
If
when
I
it's
was to pick like a kind of quasi-action legitimate movie that I would say is my favorite, I would have to say Die Hard.
yeah, Die Hard's great.
I'm a huge John McClane fan, in my
I
opinion.
actually think that Back to the Future might be the greatest movie of all time. I really do.
It could be.
It's just so clever and like fun and like it's family oriented. It's a fucking cool movie.
I always love that part when he's like, "The Libyans, they found me," and they chase after him. But Back to the Future is absolutely excellent. And I even like, starting to dig into like who was originally cast in the movie and who wasn't cast in it. And
Isn't that shit kind of funny?
It's so funny.
Yeah, I heard with like Rocky. There's this story of Apollo came in and Carl Weathers, he did a reading and he was like, "Hey, I apologize. I think I would do a lot better job if you guys actually had Rocky here." And the guy's like, "That's him. That's Sylvester Stallone. He wrote it. He wants to be in it too." And he was like, "Oh, whoops."
Yeah.
He just thought Stallone was so bad, and they cast like I heard Burt Reynolds.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like imagine Burt Reynolds being Rocky. Like that would just fuck everything up.
It was, there's another one, a huge one. Was it Tom Selleck was supposed to be Indiana Jones?
Yeah.
That was like the big one, and he turned that down to do Magnum PI or something. That was, one of the biggest ones, like, oh God, that's a bad decision. So,
yeah, it's crazy to think about.
yeah.
The Back to the Future, the one where they go back to the Western days.
That's
like
the third one.
Third
It
one.
all goes downhill after
Things
that.
started to
Just
kinda-
making sure when you said it was like the greatest, I didn't know if you meant all three or just the first one.
just the first.
And that Hill Valley set was like, they say,
Dude,
like
that's
they
good.
call it like Spielberg's universe. Like that's where Gremlins was filmed. If you pay attention, like that's where like a lot of other movies were filmed. So you start to go into that E.T. Spielberg universe.
I've
deal.
actually been right where that clock tower is.
clock
Because
tower.
my brother filmed a movie there a long time ago, and there was nobody on the lot, and I could just hang out. I fucking climbed up there and shit, and it was
Save the clock tower.
Yeah.
Take a picture. Save the clock
yeah,
tower.
that was
I do love movies though. I go to the movies a lot. So I'll always watch movies and and
Hani Rambad. He mentioned he loves going to the movies. It's a good stress relief for him.
Yep.
So he just puts his phone away and just chills.
Hani's a gun guy.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, he's a big gun guy.
I know he's into cars because he talked about that quite a bit when he was on the show.
Yeah, Hani's a gun guy, and movies are definitely a good release, and I love going. I'll go with a bunch of friends. I don't like to go by myself. I think it gets a little depressing at that point. But
I threaten to go by myself all the time, but I never end up there.
I think it gets a little.
People always come with me.
I'm not with the ones that are like a restaurant. I don't know if you can wrap your head around those.
Yeah.
Like you can sit and you can have like a full meal and watch a movie. I don't know
Deliver
how I feel
shit to you and stuff.
I don't know how I feel about that just yet. I'm not ready for that kind of party just yet.
What about Deadpool? Did you get to see Deadpool too?
The Deadpool one comes up a lot, and I know where we're going. We're gonna end up at John Wick, but the Deadpool one comes up a lot, and I'm not into it. I just can't wrap my head around Ryan Reynolds. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
He's pretty jacked. He's in pretty good shape.
It's too annoying for me.
You can't handle it.
I cannot get my head around it. And I guess
I liked it a lot. I liked the second one a lot. I just saw it. I saw it twice.
I think it's funny,
Yeah.
but the best interpretation of firearms and firearms manipulation, you watch movies like Heat are good, and like I watch too much Deadpool stuff, and I'm like, all right, he lost me at like flipping upside down and like shooting a gun and like all that stuff.
Right.
But like I enjoy obviously the John Wick movies because Keanu took a lot of time in his training, and it was a big deal to him to get it right. So that's always been the first John Wick movie was a huge like everybody in the gun industry was like, yeah, like finally like one movie that got it right, you know what I mean? And then the second one was a little over the top where everybody's an assassin and kills everybody with like his finger. It gets a little ridiculous. I'm sure by the third one it'll be a little over the top.
You like any of the superhero movies?
I really liked the idea of an ensemble cast, the Avengers, and like putting that together because I honestly I watch it more like, geez, it's cool to see all these different actors come together
Yeah.
and how they gel on the screen. I'm enjoying some of those movies, the Avengers movies, but sooner or later they all get hokey, Mark. Like by the third one or fourth one, it's like,
Right.
okay, it's a little too much. But yeah, I mean, I definitely enjoy some of the Avengers movies. I did enjoy the Wolverines. I thought those were really good. I was a
Yeah.
big fan of them, and I thought Hugh Jackman did an awesome job. And especially the last one was really dark, and I
Yeah.
like that dark stuff.
Yeah, that was sick.
And the Batman ones were pretty good. The last three
Yeah.
Batmans.
What about Guardians of the Galaxy?
Funny,
Yeah.
reminiscent of the '80s. You know,
Yeah.
kind of brings me back into that.
He's
that-
got the tape player and
Yeah,
stuff. Yeah.
brings me into that '80s mindset. It'll be interesting to see where they go with the next one. I know they're coming out with a Guardians of the Galaxy 3, I believe, Volume 3.
I agree with you though. Yeah, they do fall off. I always like when it's not really revealed that the guy's a superhero yet, or like the making of a superhero. I like that part, and that
The development of the character.
that part of the story is so much better than
Like,
when
I
it
could-
actually turns. You know,
And I'm sure like Smokey would agree with this. Like I could spend 3 movies watching how Batman trained for the League of Shadows. Keep me there. I would rather stay there and see the development, because giving that like one little 20-minute segment in the movie gave it no justice. I'm like, I really want to see when he dropped out of, Bruce Wayne drops out of Stanford, goes to the League of Shadows, trains, and he becomes Batman. Keep me there for 3 movies.
right?
The Joker was excellent, but keep me there. But everybody follows that similar arc in movies now, where they come out with their Star Wars, then they come out with their Empire Strikes Back, then you lose me at the Ewoks. You lose me at the Ewoks. You just get lazy and you
Yeah.
chop a Wookiee in half, and now you have an Ewok.
Harry Potter was pretty good. And Harry Potter, I mean, but that was a book, so it's a little different. But Harry Potter was pretty fucking. I like Harry Potter a lot.
Harry Potter is
What,
interesting.
there's 7 of them or 8 of them or
I
something?
Yeah.
have no
A
idea.
shit ton of them.
I think that like you can watch one and really get into it and get engaged as an adult, but as you get older, you're kind of
It's a little nerdy.
As the episodes went on, they didn't know if there was some confusion as to who they were trying to appeal to. They didn't know if they were trying to appeal to the young crowd or the older crowd in some of them. And I was kind of like, make an effing choice, make a
Right.
fucking choice, and go with it and stay there, because either like try to appeal to me. It's kind of like I really liked what's the cartoon one with the superheroes, the family. They're superheroes.
Incredibles?
Incredibles. I really
God
like the
damn,
Incredibles.
Incredibles is good.
It's awesome. And I'm saying to myself, geez, is this for me or is this for kids? But I accepted that it was for me, and I really enjoyed it when it stayed there. When they start to, either become for just the kids, make a choice
Yeah,
along
so
the way.
there's 8 Harry Potters.
How good is Megamind?
The wizard,
That's one of my
yeah.
favorites.
Yeah.
you know what's my favorite scene? One of my favorite scenes in any film, and it's in The Incredibles, is the training montage when
Yeah.
he's like trying to make a comeback,
Yeah.
and he's
Yeah.
getting all jacked, he's getting in great shape, and then he pulls up to that thing, and a lady could see his face through like the surveillance camera, and she takes her glasses down, and she looks closer, and she goes, "Oh my God, you've gotten fat."
I love that.
It's like he's training, he's all pumped up, he's so excited about himself, and he goes to get fitted for his suit, and right when she sees his face, she's like, "Oh my God, you've gotten fat."
I love that little training lady. I
Yeah.
love her, the one that designs the suits and everything. She's a riot. I think they're coming out with another one.
Yeah,
The trailer was just out, and I watched the trailer. Like I was like, give me more. I was like, I was at the movies recently, and I was like, that
yeah.
looks so badass.
My son was like, "How old is that movie?" He's like, "I remember us watching it together." I think he's like,
Is it 10 years?
"I think we went to the movie theater together." I'm like, "I don't know if that's possible. I think the movie's like 15 years
Yeah,
old."
I think it might be like 8 years or so between the
I'll look
first
it
one
up.
and now.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's got to be some time gap. The movies are a great release, and anytime you do high intensity training or you're on the range or anything else, like Tony loves movies. One thing you guys
He's a
might
movie
not
nut.
know, he's a movie junkie. Every new movie he's seen it already.
Yeah, 2004.
A really good movie
No.
if you haven't seen it, Margaret, you get a chance to
Long ass time.
if you get a chance to go see it, was the new Death Wish with Bruce Willis.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, really good. Very well done. I walked away like, damn, I hope they do another one. And I like the Equalizers with Denzel.
You ever get hired for any movies? Like sometimes they need a gun guy there, right?
Yeah, I don't do I'm friends with some of the guys that run some of the prop studios and some of
Cool.
the technical advisors. So there's groups out there that you can actually have on set that'll consult, and a lot of them are based out of LA. I know with the growth of movies in Boston and on the East Coast, there's a couple of sets and prop stuff. I have done a couple small movies for a buddy of mine as an extra stand-in stuff. One was an Australian rules football-based movie, which wasn't really a stretch for me to
Right.
put pads on and run around the background. But yeah, I've done some of that stuff, but never anything with firearms. A lot of them go through
Like an agency.
Like an agency.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the way it works. We've given firearms and we've donated stuff to those agencies. So like one of the things like I thought would have been a really good fit for us, and we made a little bit of a lobby for, was to get our firearms in Avatar, the new Avatar that's coming out. It didn't really pan out, so I can talk about it a little bit, because I thought like, hey, pass me my Falcor would have made sense in that movie. Like that was the appeal, like, you know what I mean? Because it was a futuristic movie and our name sounds a little futuristic. And I thought it fit in and our guns would have fit in, but it just didn't work out.
Right.
Of it. Yeah.
They don't do advertising like that like they used to in the movies, like especially like early and mid 80s. There would just be like a big, like there would literally be a banner in the background sometimes.
Yeah. There was like
what the fuck?
There was like kayfabe in movies. It was like it was there, but no one talked about it. Now kayfabe's gone, and it's like everything's very open and discussed, and you don't see it like the way it used to be. Those blatant ads. It's more it comes up or it's in passing. You see it still
It's a pro wrestling term.
Yeah, it is. So you see it still in sitcoms and in TV shows.
Right. Yeah. You still see the kind of blatant.
Because we get solicited a lot by movie prop houses. A lot, and you can pay a vig almost to be in the movies. There's groups like the Leviathan group and stuff like that you can hire, and they'll bring you props. They'll bring you all the guns you want.
What about TV shows?
So one of the most notable ones recently is The Punisher. So everybody's been lobbying to get their firearms in The Punisher. Recently, a company called Seekins Precision had their firearms in The Punisher movie. We looked at a lot of that. I haven't seen it as a huge benefit,
Just fun. It's just fun.
Yeah, I mean, like we know the 92 FS, the Beretta is like the lethal weapon gun, is the die-hard gun. It's hard to get that type of recognition in a show. I would
maybe for the nutrition movie, maybe me and my brother can shoot a bunch of carbs.
Whatever you
can
want.
Provide the gun for us.
Of course. Yeah, you definitely want
to fucking shoot up some pizza and stuff. You ever see that video from Furious Pete?
No.
It was 11 pizzas stopped a bullet. 11 frozen pizzas.
I definitely would do that for sure, because that would definitely work. But yeah, we've looked at a few TV series.
Like, hey, Chris, hand me that Falcor gun.
Yeah, let me blow this apart. Yeah, we looked at all that stuff, but I just have to see the ROI if it makes sense. A lot of times it's hard to get that lightning in a bottle like they did with Die Hard and like they did with Lethal Weapon.
How do you make sense of that sometimes? Because sometimes it's not always about that, right?
It's not. I think it comes down to who's going to be in the movie, what's the depiction of the weapon. A lot of time we don't.
I just meant like in general, like even away from movies, just like in general, like business decisions. Like, you might do something just to, like, sometimes you might want to just do something just because it's fun, or just because it's supportive of somebody else.
It's hard, in the firearms business. There's, like I was saying a little bit last night, like you're never tactical enough, you're never SWAT enough, you're never Special Forces enough, you're never Navy SEAL enough, you're never cop enough. Our industry is very it's kind of like what bodybuilding is going through right now. They'll say like, well, he's not a pro, you know what I mean? He doesn't have the right to have a sponsorship. He's not a pro bodybuilder. Yeah. And a lot of those guys are standing on their heels. So, I think it's really important to kind of separate the two and really understand that you may make a decision to do something just because it is fun. And you may make a decision, like Demolition Ranch on YouTube. They do a lot of fun stuff with firearms. And, we've given them Falcors. And a lot of times, like, we may make the decision to say, we'll give them the gun to do it. We won't do it directly with our marketing. So a lot of companies build these huge in-house marketing outfits, but there's still stuff we want to outsource to other people because we want that plausible deniability. Well, they did it with one of our guns. We didn't necessarily authorize it, but maybe we did, but maybe we didn't.
Yeah, you didn't know what they were going to do with that gun, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think you go through that here. It's like, I'll give you a bunch of wrist straps and slingshots if you want to put 9,000 pounds on the bar and you blow your legs out. I mean, that's on you. So I think it's hard. I think you look at every situation. You don't want to, as a company and something we're putting out in our media, we don't want to do something that may really be too far for us or be something that's not industry accepted, that's a little beyond safe. If somebody does it with success, whether it's a trick shot or blowing something up or whatever, and it's cool. And
speaking of trick shots, how about Three Amigos? That's a fucking great movie.
Hey. So, what happened to Martin Short? Where is he?
I don't know.
Where is he now?
I don't know. I always liked him a lot.
Three Amigos is not a good depiction of firearms handling in any stretch of the imagination, but a funny movie. Another great 80s classic, for sure.
Do you have a favorite gun?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah, our favorite gun movie. Yeah, both of
That's
them.
2.
Yeah.
So my favorite gun, I'll take the last one first. My favorite gun movie, my favorite gun, of course, is of all time would have to be the Glock 19 for a whole number of reasons. But that gets into like the simplicity of it, the technical of it.
A bunch of people right now are so mad,
Yeah,
right? Everyone's so passionate about it.
Everyone's so passionate about it. I have and always will love that gun just because of the simplicity and the story behind it after reading the book. But my favorite gun will be the next one that we come out with at Falcor.
Bam.
Makes sense.
Very Tom Brady
It'll
of
be the
you.
next one.
Yeah.
It'll be the next one.
Yeah, that was.
That's what he
So-
said about championships. They
Yeah.
said, "What's your favorite championship?" And
It's
he
the
said, "The
next
next one."
Yeah.
And he's
Has to
and
be.
people are like, "Huh?"
My favorite gun movie or a favorite like scene of like I was like, wow, that was really something. I really liked when Jesse the Body had the Gatling gun in Predator. I thought that was
Yeah,
cool.
how
And they-
damn good is that?
Yeah, and they mowed down the forest. You know, I think every guy was like, I just want to do that once. You know what I mean? I want to mow down a
It's a
forest.
nasty habit you got there, and he's
Yeah.
got that big thing of
Yeah.
chewing. And he spit on the guy's
Yeah,
boot,
with the Gatling gun. This
flexing the triceps as hard as possible.
as hard as
he's-
possible. Got to get the pump. You know? I think there's so many cool scenes in movies like when in Terminator when he goes down in Terminator 2 when he goes down to the
yeah.
weapons cache
Oh,
and he's got everything down there. And
yeah,
then, like
the
she-
fucking gun out of the.
I look at it and I'm like,
shotgun.
where'd she get all the money for that?
Guns
you
N'
know,
Roses.
it's expensive, all the ammo, everything else, because it's not a cheap
Uzi
habit.
9mm
Everywhere.
laser sighting.
Everywhere, yeah. And then I love like looking at movies like Die Hard's one of my favorite movies, so I love looking at the different firearms in that movie. Like there's a meme that passes around the gun industry that's like Hans is getting thrown out the building, and like somebody memed it and they said, I got to be honest, I would have grabbed the HK VP out of his hand before he jumped, you know, because there's just so many iconic guns. But my favorite firearm of all time from movies, which is kind of a little bit of what you were asking too, is the Brand 10. The Brand 10, which is the Miami Vice gun. If you remember, you know, Miami Vice, he had that big, you know, silver nickel-plated,
Yeah.
10mm, of course. I was like, damn, I want that gun. And then, you know, the patent went out the window. They stopped producing it, and then Voltor bought the patent, and we haven't seen the gun since. I know who owns the patent because I'm still trying to rough them up to come out with one.
What about Tombstone?
Love Tombstone. Excellent movie. Excellent
That's
movie.
so good.
Yeah, it's an excellent movie. Tombstone,
That's one of my faves.
it's funny, yeah. That's definitely an all-time favorite. Kicks ass. Yeah, the Brand 10. I love that gun. If I could have one, I sold. I had an FN Scar that I had all done up, and Smokey knows because he probably follows me. I sold it, and I'll tell you the inside. So I sold it for a girl. So I sold it to buy.
Oh my
yeah,
God.
I sold it to buy a ring for a
You're
girl.
an
So
idiot.
yeah, it was an ultimate, stupid move. But I sold it. And to this day, I'll never get that gun back, the way that it was built and the way that I had set it up, because it had the full Voltor kit on it. It was all done up, and I just really loved it. Like, it was just an awesome gun.
Remember that scene in Pulp Fiction after the Gimp? And Bruce Willis is looking for like a weapon, right? And what does he start out with, like a baseball bat, and then it keeps evolving.
Yeah.
He finds like a samurai sword, and like I forget even what he settles on, like a chainsaw or
Like
something.
a chainsaw. Yeah. He has a little bit of like that Doom scene where it's like he's picking up everything that is laid down. But yeah, definitely Glock 19 I could tell stories about for days, but I love playing around with all kinds of stuff and seeing what's out there and seeing what the market comes out with and seeing what changes. I've seen some weird stuff. I mean, I've seen some stuff that I'm kind of like, oh my God, I can't believe they came out with that, or I can't believe they tried to come out with that.
Do you guys make anything else?
Yes.
Make
Yes.
like holsters or anything like that?
Oh
or-
no, yeah, holsters are kind of like their own
It's a
separate thing.
whole
We
nother
we
thing.
make mag extensions, we make accessories for firearms. I thought you were getting into some of the missile stuff and everything else, so we do some of the defense stuff. But mainly accessories for firearms.
Missiles, that's cool.
Yeah.
I want to make a missile.
Jeez. What about grenades?
No, we don't make grenades. No, we don't make any grenades.
What's the deal with the missiles? That must be like some sort of government type thing.
So we get subcontracted to do a lot of subcontract government work for.
It's for the military, I would assume.
Yeah. So yeah, that's exciting work. And
What does a missile look like? How big is it?
It's tedious. Well, it could be the size of your arm. It could be the size of this desk. It depends on what you're housing.
Damn,
Yeah, rocket.
that's pretty crazy. That's got to be cool to see one of those things.
Yeah,
being
it's a
made.
very cool process, and it's something our owners take very seriously. They love being involved and working for the government and doing all that stuff like the AIM-9X and some of the stuff with the Tomahawk, and they enjoy all that stuff.
Can you light gunpowder on fire like they do in the cartoons and have it like make a trail?
Like the Rambo scene,
Yeah,
where
yeah.
he gets all the guns.
Does that work?
Yeah, it's very explosive. You can only have so many pounds in one place at one time, technically. You know what I mean? Or you could face a real
We got to
fire.
try that out.
It's a fire department thing. Yeah, I mean, you could have a real problem. Gunpowder is highly regulated. Highly regulated. How much you have and where you house it and whether or not it's
Because
safe.
it's explosive.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah. What do you got going on in here?
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, gunpowder definitely, like, it's funny, all those reloading components, they're very hard to get. They're very expensive. Reloading's expensive. It has a lot of regulation.
What kind of gun did Elmer Fudd have?
What do you have? That double barrel shotgun, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that work? If
I
y'all
think-
there's a scene from Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, I think it was a Falcor.
Yeah, if he had a Falcor.
For sure.
I don't know if that works like it does in the cartoons where they just put their finger over it and then it shoots backwards at the guy, right?
I wouldn't recommend trying it. It
Yeah.
wouldn't fall under the guidelines.
Oh,
of
there's the chainsaw.
gun safety. Yeah. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
got the chainsaw.
My poor son's scarred for life. He watched this movie with me.
Oh no.
Probably when he was like 11.
Oh, he's 11. Yeah, Bruce Willis is great. I mean, he's phenomenal for these movies. I'd much rather watch him than Liam Neeson any day of the week and twice on Sunday.
Yeah, why is Liam Neeson beating people up?
You know, I
Who
don't
decided
understand.
on that?
One, I don't understand that, and two, he's very anti-gun. So I would much rather, and I'll go on record and say that the entire movie industry run Liam Neeson out of the action genre. Period.
Yeah, if he doesn't like guns, what is he
If
doing?
if you're man enough to make money off him, but you're not man enough to carry him or to be a supporter of the industry,
Right.
please leave.
That makes sense.
Please leave.
What's your favorite part of running this business?
My favorite part's the people.
You get to run into some of these people at trade shows
Yes.
and different things like this.
My favorite part, no questions asked, hands down, is the
What
people.
does a gun trade show look like compared to like the Arnold Classic?
10 times the size.
I would imagine.
10 times the size. A lot more companies involved in it for a number of
A lot
reasons.
less fanny packs.
A lot less fanny packs. And you really see a clashing of multiple cultures at them because what you're starting to see is kind of like the old dusty buckle and boot guys start to fade off. You know, the out of shape guys. You've seen a lot more in shape guys. Like you see Lou Ferrigno walk around the gun shows. He's a huge gun guy. You see him, pal around.
Fucking Incredible Hulk.
Yeah, of course. And you see him walk around. You see a lot of the guys from TV shows like the CSIs, like Ice-T's a huge gun guy. So you run into these people and they're kind of moseying around the shows. Tend not to bother them, try not to unless I know them or have a relationship with them. But they're huge. They're enormous. The booths are enormous.
Yeah.
I remember Branch coming to his first SHOT Show. I believe it was SHOT Show. And he goes, you're right. This is 50 times bigger than FIBO. Like he was like blown away by it. Like wow, this is really big. And you can never see it all in a week. And I'm talking about a whole week the show is. So you can never
Yeah, didn't you
walk
say
around.
one of the shows like 10 days or something?
Yeah, the Great American Outdoor Show in Pennsylvania. If you're ever in the Pennsylvania area and you go to the Great American Outdoor Show, it is like, if you have to work it, it is a pride-swallowing experience. But if you get to go and walk around it, it's not too bad. But it's 10 days long. I mean, some of these shows, they're long, but
Yeah.
you get a chance to go there. And there's so many people that get into this like gun show loopholes and you can buy a gun. You can't, I mean, I've never left with a firearm at any one of those shows, so I don't know where these people are going. They must be going like to the local Shriners to buy these guns because at SHOT Show and at the NRA show, you can't buy the gun there. At least I've never bought one. I don't know who's buying these guns at shows. So I feel like the media creates a lot of these myths around like what a gun show is and what goes on. Most of it's industry stuff, and you might sell accessories or you may sell some things, but the shows are huge. The presence is big, and it's great to see a lot of foot traffic. I mean, every year it's record foot traffic. NRA in Dallas this year was record foot traffic.
What's new that you can talk about that you guys have?
A few things. We've done brand new mag extensions. We just revamped our entire mag extension line, which I'm pumped about. So those are Glock acceptable mag extensions that we put on the market. We are talking about and going forward with a lot of our bolt action stuff. That's really not a mystery that eventually we're going to get into the bolt action game. I don't think that's a secret because we released bolt action barrels, then we pulled them off the market to develop our chassis and to kind of refine our process a little bit. Our clothing and our branding and how we're going to be doing a lot of our soft goods is going to be changing, and we're always evolving that, and we're trying to get everything right about the brand. The knives, the blades, we're doing a collaboration with Tops Knives, so we do a lot of blades in collaboration with different knife companies, but Tops has been one of the ones we've done a lot of collaborations with. So that's something that we're excited about because I feel like it gets us into a different space And eventually we will be getting, and I will say this, we'll be getting into a smaller caliber that's not necessarily a rifle caliber very, very, very soon. And then I'll talk about, we're doing a 6.5 Grendel round, which is a small medium game round. It's a cartridge. We're excited about that. That's going to be an AR-15 platform. And then we're also going to be doing very shortly, it's Tony's rifle. It's going to be this called the Standard. This is going to be a rifle that's going to be slightly more affordable. That's going to make sense because one of the biggest hits that we've taken as a company is people say, well, you're so expensive. Your stuff is so expensive. And I'm like, yeah, it's expensive. I'm like, it's good. But we want to make something that people can get their hands on. So.
Oh, it looks pretty damn slick.
Yeah, the limited edition Woodland Cerakote there. There's the Petra. Yeah.
What do you do for stress? Whack off, read a book, meditate, masturbate,
All that.
all the above?
No, I usually to de-stress or to wind down, especially after training the way that we do or getting in the gym and getting on the range and stuff like that. Movies was the first thing to kind of wind down, watch a good movie. But really, I don't mind once in a while getting in the car and going where there's no phone reception. I did this past weekend, and my team, if they're watching, they'll attest this. And sometimes when I'm out of the office, I won't answer any messages because sometimes you just need that wind down. Like, it's like, no offense, don't take it personal, guys. I need like 3 hours of just, I sleep 2 hours a night hugging the phone as it is, as most media people do, because you never know what's going to happen. Somebody's going to say something negative. Somebody's going to comment. Someone's going to leave a message. I got to get back to them. So you have to take those pockets of time, those little bit of windows of like, what's it, woosah that people say.
Mm-hmm.
So last weekend I went up and went camping, and I did a little fishing, did a little hanging out, start a big campfire. Was down out in Glacier National Park and out that way. And I just need to turn it off for a little while. And I think everybody should do that. I think, I said that I actually have a video I haven't posted yet. I'm going to post it on Instagram at some point. It's the fire crackling. And I'm just going to talk about, like, if you haven't taken a few hours to just get out of town and turn your phone off in the last couple of months, you need to. I think every 90 to 120 days, if you don't do that, chances are you're headed towards like a little bit of a breakdown or a blow up, because everybody burns out. And I think it's about avoiding burnout.
Yeah, and I think that if you're, running a company, it's important to figure out ways of how do you continue to run? Like, how do you continue to keep things moving forward? And the only way to move things forward is to occasionally step aside, right?
Yeah, and I think you have to have a good team,
Yeah.
And I think, I use the term sometimes mental health days, and I'm sure you have, like, there might come a day where you just wake up, you're not feeling it at all. I tell my guys the same thing. I'm like, look, if you're I'd rather you be in here and work hard till 3:30, and if you feel like you got to walk out after that, or you just walk away, go home, go get a cheeseburger. You want to come back in, whatever it is.
Cheeseburger solves everything.
Yeah, whatever it is, you have to turn it off, and you have to take some downtime. And I think everybody needs that. I'm a huge advocate of, like, take a vacation, take a week off. I hope you do this with your guys. Like, you don't want anybody to grind them into the ground. It's like you don't come back with fresh ideas.
Right.
If you just live in this bubble of slingshot and
Right.
super training, your guys aren't going to be going out and getting new, fresh ideas.
Can't expand.
You can't expand. Even when I'm out on the range sometimes, like, I'll shoot other
You actually
companies'
mentioned
guns.
that last night. You said there was a company that accepted a government contract and they were just stuck in it for a decade and they never came out with anything new.
Yeah, I mean, I use the
Because they were churning out so much work and so much inventory, and all the resources went towards that one thing. They didn't have time to pop their head up and look around.
Yeah, I mean, I think if, like, sometimes those things are blessings and curses. When you get that, and I won't use the firearms company's name. It's just a hint. It begins with a B. But when you have that huge government contract and you're stuck in that rut of just servicing that one thing, I think you lose the ability to grow and expand. And we've seen it so many times with companies. They have these huge growth spurts, and then they lose their ability to innovate. And I think when you lose your ability to innovate, you're dead. That's why sometimes having fresh faces, bring in a fresh body, or even if you don't want to hire new people, bring in a consultant for a little while. A lot of people don't use their sponsored athletes the right way either. They don't bring them in as consultants the way that they should.
Right.
Bring them in, be like, what have you seen out there? What have you used over here? What other company did you use that you liked? Or tell me about how the shirt feels on you, And I think that sometimes we get egos and we're afraid to accept, like, hey, this doesn't work too good, or hey, I don't like this. I'm constantly sending barrels out and guns out to people because I want the feedback, and they're like, oh, I'll post a picture. I'm like, motherfucker, I don't want you to post a picture. I want you to tell me what you think of it and tell me what you feel and tell me, how it's shot or tell me what you think. And if a lot of my, people I trust in my side of the industry give me a good, honest opinion, a good, honest feedback, I'm going to take that and I'm going to put it into my process. But I think it's good to take time off and good to go see what's out there. And sometimes I'll just walk around gun stores or I'll walk around a Cabela's or, and just kind of see what the industry's doing or see what people are doing out there. And I think it's good to do that. I think you'd want all your guys to get in a different gym, try some different equipment out. I think that's so important.
Yeah, I think it's important.
Fresh
too.
perspective, fresh
Yeah.
perspective. And I have no doubt in my mind that my team does that. My team's always out there shooting different stuff, getting feedback, knowing what's right and wrong. And time off is critical. It really is to self-development.
Right. Got anything over there, Andrew?
Yeah, Sam, John, and Casey said they're going to take the rest of the day off for a mental health.
No. The short
What
answer
the fuck
is
are
no.
they talking about?
No.
You were just saying that just to be on the podcast, not actually meaning it. No, but that's all I got, Mark. Yeah.
Does your team go out and shoot?
Yeah.
You guys do other stuff to try to get people out of the office?
Yeah, we try to.
Not an easy thing to do, but
No, it you know what it is. It's tough to herd everybody, and I'm sure you go through this, and it's tough to coordinate things. We just had a big range day fairly recently. We have weather conditions up there. We have an indoor range. We do a lot of stuff at too. I'd like to do more. I'd like to probably be at the range 4 or 5 times a year at a minimum. To test stuff, to evaluate stuff. As far as quick testing stuff goes, they're on the range. Anytime we have to test something, somebody will run out. But as far as large scale type things, 4 or 5 times a year, we do a large scale, get all hands on deck, get everybody to the range kind of thing, because it's you got to feed them, you got to get them there, you got to get them home, you got to make sure everybody's safe, and you got to take all the firearms there. It's a process.
right.
All
right, I think that's all the time we got. Where can people find you?
So a few things. Of course, you can find me on my Instagram page at John Bartolo, at John._Bartolo, sorry. And then you can find me on my YouTube, John Bartolo. Everything is pretty much my name, Facebook, on all the channels. And then, of course, you'll find me or see me on different ads with Blackstone Labs, with Gasp, with Sinister Labs. Of course, with you guys from time to time. I'm always kind of bouncing on your
I'm actually
page.
looking at some of these facts here. And is this true? You won some powerlifting meets?
Yes.
Oh, my
Yes.
God. How
Yeah.
come we didn't go over that? What's your best bench? How much you bench?
The most I ever did in a gym touch and go was 5 1/4. The best I ever did in
Nice.
competition that I believe is still, and you can check, it's on EPF, the Elite Powerlifting Federation, which was a New England federation, like I said, a dog shit
Sounds made
federation.
up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty much. But it was there, it was real, and I walked in and competed, did 505 there.
Nice.
Bench, yeah.
At what body weight?
242.
That's great. That's a fucking awesome bench.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
What about squats and deads? You get into that stuff heavily too?
Yeah, so I think I was high 6s on deadlift at one point, and on squats I was doing 5 and change.
Nice.
Yeah.
There's some good numbers.
Yeah, it was solid. I mean, I was by no means on your level or some of the pros out there, but I was just
Nobody's on my level.
nobody.
You were a teacher and you used to play Bigger, Stronger, Faster in the class?
Yes.
Was
so
that just
funny.
for your own enjoyment? Like, kids, you're going to watch what I watch.
No. So I was always very open about drugs in sports and about the performance enhancers, things like that. And one of my former associates.
Just picture the kids running home.
No. This is a college. This is a college course.
college.
So,
Mr. Bartolo's
yeah.
on steroids.
Yeah.
No. That's. No. So when I would show the video, it was more my former associate athletic director was teaching at LaSalle College out in Mass. So the Massachusetts LaSalle College. It's in Auburn, Mass, I believe. And he would say, "Hey, would you mind coming in and doing like a round table with the kids and talk about like supplementation, drugs in sports, things like that?" And I would show segments of your brother's video because I'd be like,
cool.
"Here's a documentary that gets it really right, guys. If you want to do some research." And it was more to educate them on don't fool yourself. It's there. You know,
Right,
kind of thing. Because I think when people leave school, they kind of have the veil over their eyes, like, "Oh, I took creatine and I look like this." And it's
Right.
like, come on, dude. Let's be real. So
Education.
a little bit of education. So we would show segments of the video, talk about it and what made sense. And it would always come back to, it's funny, it would always come back to the Valentino segment, of course, when we would talk about that and like, is that real? Is that not real?
Yeah.
But Valentino always had a nice way of putting it. So, of course, it made sense. And I did teach. I when I first got out of college, the teaching portion was I was substitute teaching and teaching at at my old high school when I was coaching football. So similar to you, when I first got, I was like, what am I going to do? My former football coach was like, come home and, you can coach and help me out and do some classes. And you're just trying to figure out life at that point. How do I make a buck and where do I
Awesome.
go from here?
All right. Strength is never weakness. Weakness is never strength. We out.